talked right over that.
How about that? Well, I said, you know what? Let's go. Let's jump right in. And yeah. So, all right. All right. This is episode 207, Exploding Heads Horror Movie Podcast. I'm Dave Z.
Oh, I thought you're Corey Hart wearing your sunglasses. Well, it's not at night, but
still,
it still works.
It's indoors like a jerk off. And of course, they're not real sunglasses. But if I could wear sunglasses, I would. But if I wore my sunglasses, it's going to be too dark down here for me to read. The only reason I'm wearing glasses is to read because I hate the fucking way I look in glasses. Now this isn't gonna. Now I'm gonna take my glasses off. I got the filter on. It don't make a difference.
For anybody listening and not watching the video portion, he took his actual glasses off because he said he hated it, but he's got sunglass filter on Zoom, and it stayed.
It stays on. And now they won't come back. Oh, there we go. All right.
There you go. Now you're back. You're back in shades. Hey, everybody. My name's Christian. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Well, what is going on? You know what it is? We shifted the recording time, and I'm off. I'm a little off my game.
Off the game, maybe, but worth it to get a little more sleep and to stay up a little later the night before. For me, anyway.
Yeah. For me, it was business as usual in that regard. Although there was the whole thought process, the whole reason for this is it was my daughter's final dance recital. She's not 100% done yet because there's still one more thing that they have to go to Worlds at the end of July. And that's it. So there's still dance happening, and then that will be the last hurrah. But this was her last recital ever. So my oldest daughter was there. The whole family was there. We saw it. It was great. And then we were supposed to go to an after party. And I bowed out right away. I said, nope, because that goes on it starts midnight and it will just go till 4 or 5, whatever. And I just said, I can't do it. Christian's got to play basketball. I've got to record the show, and I'm leaving tomorrow, and I'm gone for almost a week, which is why we're not recording next weekend for work. I'm gone. I'm in Budapest. Fucking Budapest, man.
Wow. What? You're going to Budapest?
Yeah, it's for work. Yeah. And wow. I've never been. So I heard it's untapped. It's an untapped gem that no one thinks about. They hear Hungary, Budapest, and they're like, yeah, okay, whatever. But supposedly it's amazing because nobody thinks about it. They all want to go to the hot spots. And we're going to Budapest.
Man, it's a very under the radar place because and granted, I'm not going to pretend I know a lot about geography or a lot about foreign countries, because when you get right down to it, I don't. I don't watch shows about it presently. And when I was in high school or any school, anything I learned there is it doesn't exist at this point. It's
well, at least Canada's above the States.
Oh, I do know that. In the sense
of because sometimes that can get a little messy.
I'm okay. I understand. The one continent I know is North America. Anything else?
Yeah.
I can't even name the 7 continents. Are there 7? Am I even right about that? No clue.
You asked me. I remember the provinces. I struggled with that one time. I had to name them all. I throw in a number, and then I realized that number doesn't sound right. So then I have to go actually name them all. Then realize I was off by 5.
And here I am thinking I'm terrible.
Hey, but I know the provinces. States. Yeah, but okay, yeah.
You only got to remember 4 of them.
I think when it isn't like we had this discussion no, it's not 4, but we had this discussion on the show, and I think it's 13. But here we go again. Let's name them all.
It's 13.
Well, let's name them all, including territories. BC,
all the listeners.
Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island. Did I say Newfoundland?
I don't know, buddy.
Newfoundland. Fuck, I already fucked up. No. And then Northwest Territories and Yukon, and none of it. So I was right. 10 provinces, 3 territories.
Okay.
Well, I was right in a sense.
Hopefully, unless you said Newfoundland twice. Who knows? You may have. We don't know. It remains to be heard.
So, yeah. Now, when I try to do the 50 states, because I've tried this before and just to write them out. I couldn't do it off the
50.
top of my head. I try to write them out. I always come up with like 35. Or these other 15, because you forget like Rhode Island. You forget like Missouri and all this shit. If there's a North and South Dakota, you know what I'm saying? Delaware. Who fucking thinks of these things?
You're right. They're not very popular.
But then when it comes down to it, New Mexico, who fucking knew?
You don't hear much about them.
You're
right. They're kind of mellow. So all those states you just mentioned are basically like what were we talking about a minute ago? Budapest. They're just kind of not thought about much.
They're the Budapest of the United States.
There. And I don't even know what Budapest is. I know what it is. Well, I don't. Budapest is in Hungary, correct?
Yeah. It's the
Here's the weird thing.
City too. Yeah.
When I think about Hungary, I think about like places.
Oh, Hungary?
Like
Oh, Henry?
No, not even a
commercial.
joke.
Canadian commercial.
I remember Oh Henry. Oh Henry. Oh Henry. How about that one? What movie is that? Oh Henry. What would you do without me? Yep.
Oh. Creep Show?
Oh Henry. Yeah.
No.
There you go.
It's a Creep Show?
Creep Show.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Creep Show.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh Henry. Okay, so I do know what Oh Henry bars are for damn sure. But now let's see. So, okay, let me get back to Hungary. Henry. So, Hungry Henry, if that's not a video game or a cartoon or something, it should be. But anyway, when I think of Hungary, I think about places like Bulgaria and like Germany. But when I think about Budapest, I think about the Middle East. Now, isn't that weird? So, which is it? Straighten me out.
Well, it would be closer, although none of that makes it's
any
in
sense.
Europe.
Okay.
No, it's in Europe. It does make sense, but it's not in the Middle East. It's in Hungary, which is part of Europe. So it's in that realm. But you're right. I mean, if I was giving them like one of those maps, just like we were talking about the 50 states, if you're giving like the states, that helps too. Because if you're just going off memory and you have 50 lines to fill in, that's difficult. When you've got actually 50 like a map that's just not labeled, that's much easier. I still don't know if I'll get all of them.
No,
but
I
it's
won't get them
significantly easier. So if Europe was thrown my way, once again, I studied it in high school. I remember staring at my globe and twirling around, going, "Oh, I'd love to go here and there and everywhere." But I mean, to remember everything, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I would be able to list everything. Plus, my globe is like, I think says USSR on it still.
Born in the USSR or actually, back in the USSR.
I'm wrong. That globe is new. The globe I grew up with, I still wish I had. That's the one that had like all the old shit, like when you didn't know there's a Slovenia.
Oh, how about a Slovakia?
Or that. Or Yugo or anything.
See, Yugo, where'd you go? So that's a B joke, but I had to do it.
Wow.
USSR.
It's not the Abbott Costello episode.
Man, right. That's coming. Another 8 episodes. Abbott and Costello. Yeah. So what was I gonna say? USSR, I think. I don't know. I always like that better. It's got a ring to it.
I don't know. For whatever reason, USA never seemed scary. Maybe short. Maybe it's because I knew you were right there. As neighbors say, USSR just looked like this. It was like, it's almost like they put the color like scary on my globe. Like it just looked like, I don't want to go there. Rocky can take it and win it all for me.
I wish it would have stayed that, even when it changed whatever happened and politically. They should have still kept the name just because it's badass. USSR. It sounds intimidating. Now, what is it just called? Russia, and that's it?
Russia, and then they've got the countries that sort of broke off. I believe, again, I'm going by very disjointed. Don't use this show as a history or geography lesson, listeners,
or for a hysterectomy, for that matter,
or for that, or for medical advice.
Not at all. So USSR. So let me ask you this: was it Russia once upon a time? Then it became USSR, and now it's back to Russia. Is that the deal here?
No, what do I look like?
Well, why would they always call it Russia even when it was USSR? So it must have originally been Russia.
Because it was no
I
differently
don't
than the
really
States.
care.
I think it was.
At the end of the day,
I
I
asked
don't
the
really
question, and I don't fucking give a shit. No, but I think it was kind of
ultimately.
like the United States. I think they were bunched in, and it was almost like Alabama said, "Fuck you guys, I want to be my own country," and whatever. And then I think it just sort of broke off, and then that's what it was. So like New Mexico can easily just become Old Mexico. Just could
It's
become the
true.
Mexico, and then you just leave that out or whatever it may be.
See, USSR was kind of badass. They were kind of like Darth Vader when you were young. Here
Dun,
you,
dun, dun, dun,
but you
dun,
see,
dun, dun, dun,
but I
dun, dun,
go
dun,
with
dun,
them.
dun.
Like I always wanted to be the heel when I was a kid. Like anytime we played like Czechs hockey, and it was it
Yeah,
was either USA and Canada, or it was USA and USSR where we are.
yeah.
I wouldn't take Canada. I would take USA over Canada, but I would take USSR over the US if I had the choice. I don't know. They're red.
Because you
They look
wanted to be the
badass.
heel.
Well, there's something okay. There's something charismatic about heels. It's just always been bad guys are more interesting in
Can
movies,
you pick like
in
ISIS as
wrestling.
like a hockey? Why doesn't ISIS have a hockey team? I know it's not a
ISIS is
country.
boring.
I know it's not a
That's
country at
see
all.
that type of shit does nothing for me. When I think of ISIS, I think of like terrorism and fucking like I don't
See,
know
do you
whatever
though?
the fuck
It's that name. That name. They
I
should
do.
have given it a better name. Like when
Why?
you really think about it, ISIS sounds like. So I think I made this
Scary.
bad joke on the. You think ISIS sounds scary? I think it sounds like Mr. Softy. I think I
No.
make. To me, it's always
Wow.
ISIS sounds like, oh, like, can I get like a banana split, please? Like it never seems scary to me.
Well,
Like some of the
wow.
names of the death metal bands that we were talking about like a couple episodes ago are scarier than ISIS. Sounds like kind of cute. Oh, it's
Well,
ISIS.
ISIS. Well, hold on. ISIS. The name ISIS goes back in time, though, too, to other things that are called ISIS, and things that have to do with
I
like,
see.
yeah. Hold
Oh
on
my
now
god.
here.
I said I see, and Siri popped up. Goes, mm-hmm. Fuck
Oh,
God, Siri.
really?
Yeah, you need to know what I mean, Siri.
Yeah, right. ISIS King. You know ISIS King.
No.
Anyway, Isis goddess, Great Mother
How did
Isis,
we
the
get here?
goddess. I don't know, but Great Mother Isis, the goddess of healing and magic, was crucial to ancient Egyptian religious beliefs. She is known today by her Greek name Isis. So, like I said, there was something in the past that was mythical about the name Isis. Okay, and that's what I was getting at. So that was there, and then terrorism in like Afghanistan and everything was going on. I can't even remember the order of things. Bottom line is, I know terrorism was a hot topic for a while. This thing after nine
Well, that,
eleven, of course, Al
it's
Qaeda,
true.
and then
You
ISIS
don't hear
flowed out
about
of
it.
that. So you
Yeah.
hear ISIS, I think, oh shit.
Oh,
It just sounds like so I think of ISIS, I think of freaking somebody like, you know what I think about? Somebody like taking chemicals and putting them in a freaking like chemical warfare. That's what I think about when I think of the word ISIS
really?
because of that.
Well,
So that's what's stuck in my head now.
and again, we don't really hear about it much anymore. Like, I mean, I'm assuming they're still around, but they were like doing like, promotional videos that like looked like they were directed by Michael Bay. I don't know if you remember that. I'm not making it like a
No,
joke. Like they're
no,
doing these huge, like almost like recruitment videos. Like
good on them.
come join
Hey,
regime. But
hey,
I've never thought that it was scary. I always thought like, oh, for such a like brute force of terrorism and all these beheadings and horrible things that they're
wow,
doing, they sound like Mr. Frosty.
wow, ISIS, because you're thinking of like icy or shit
Yeah,
like
like
that.
icy. That's exactly it. Like, give me like,
Yeah,
my
like an
freezies,
icy.
please. Yeah.
Right. I get what you're saying, but I guess the name ISIS to me always had like this mythical meaning because of the Egyptian thing. And then there was a porn star in the 90s, late 80s, and her name was Isis Nile. And I always thought that's a cool name. And she had like an exotic look to her a little bit too. So Isis being the first name and Nile being the second, like the River Nile and shit. It always had like a mythical connotation to me because of the Egyptian goddess thing and because of Isis Nile, the porn star.
See?
And then
Although
so
no one's ever connected those two before everyone's talking about this, but that's
well, no,
that's
that's just
what
how
this is
mine
great about this show. I love
my
that
mind
aspect.
my
No,
mind's
but that's
fucked.
what people do tend to think like you do, which shocks me sometimes. But the I think they need a new promoter. I honestly, they're not in the news anymore, but COVID took over.
Well, that's just what they want.
They need to,
Now,
they need to get a new recruitment. You think,
no,
I think they changed the name to Method of Destruction. I think they need
MOD.
to change it to
yeah. They need to change the MOD, USA for MOD. We're going to listen to that album. We're going to promote it. So now, listen to it. But now, no, a thing like ISIS, they shouldn't be on television recruiting. They should be underground. I think about people in caves. I think of like a speakeasy. You know what I mean? It's like an underground thing. It's not supposed to be.
When I think of speakeasy, I think of like one of those things that you used to type in that's on like a Toy Story.
You can spell.
You're like, food, yeah.
Yeah. The correct spelling of ISIS is ISIS.
The best part of Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, although I love that, I do like that sequel a lot, is when he sees the clown, he's like, FOOD, food.
Yes.
Yep. Try again.
I know, Jamie.
That was my Leatherface and Nixon impersonation all in one.
Yeah, I don't know what that was. Yeah. Leatherface meets Nixon. Lixon. Wow.
What is going on?
I don't know what's going on. How do we get to this? Wait a minute. How do we get to ISIS?
Budapest. Fucking Budapest.
Budapest brought us to ISIS. Let's go back to Budapest and hey, have a good time in Budapest. What can I say? Wow, isn't that something the way the mind works?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll snap a few pictures, but I don't really post them anywhere. Maybe I'll post them to nothing. I don't think I'm gonna post them at all.
Don't let nobody know where the fuck you're going. How's that? I mean, I guess these people here.
This has to come out before I go. That's gonna be difficult. It's gonna be difficult. Otherwise, it comes out a week later. So my goal is to get this out tomorrow.
It's okay. When it comes out, it comes out. The listeners are gonna be patient. The patrons are fucking chill. We could share with them where we're going. And that's really it. As far as the rest of Facebook and the rest of the world, and luckily for us, the rest of the world doesn't hear this stuff till a year later. So anything we say now cannot and will not be held against us in a court of law. Because if someone's looking to do something to us now, and they hear this on the feed, they go, hey, they got a podcast, Exploding Heads. Oh, let's look at it. And then they look at it, and it's 2021, top 21. Wait a minute.
Did you see someone just asked us, when are you guys going to talk about Halloween Ends? And I'm like, we did. It's on. It just hasn't come out yet. You can see it if you're on our Patreon. You can listen to it, but otherwise, it's episode 189, I believe it was, that I had to write down. And it's coming soon. It will be coming soon. It will be out by Halloween, probably this year.
Well, whenever it comes out, yeah, true. I mean, it should be. Bottom line is if you're listening now on YouTube or this place or that place, and this is the future, like a year from now or what have you, God willing, we're all still alive and healthy, and I'm not committed somewhere, then, although even if I am committed somewhere, if they do hospitalize me due to having a freaking mental deficiency, I would still want to do the podcast because I'm okay. Here's the thing. Well, I'm not okay, but I'm not well. It's like that song. Yeah. I'm not sick, but I'm
that's
well.
Flagpole Slitter.
There you go.
I'm paranoia. Everybody's coming to get me.
That is fucking
get you. Yeah.
Right. Well,
Harvey Danger. Harvey Danger's the band.
Harvey Danger. It always sounds like a fucking like a detective and like a cartoon.
Funny
Harvey
enough,
Danger.
that fit into my wife's second novel, because
Harvey Danger.
That and that song you're talking about, because that came out, I believe, in the year 2000, 99, 2000, and that's when I met my wife in 2000. We were dating there, but she put this little bit of information into the novel, but then she realized that you can reference the song, but if you actually reference lyrics, you have a copyright infringement issue. So she had to take the references of lyrics out. But again, this book has been written for 2 years now, and so I don't know what she's going to do with it. I still want her to just put it out, but what are you going to do if you're the creator of something and you don't think it's ready? Who am I to argue? I think I'm the king of that shit.
Right.
It's never ready, damn it. What's
the name of that fucking song?
The one we were just talking about?
Yes.
Flagpole Sitta.
Flagpole. Okay, 97. I knew it wasn't the fucking close enough to the 2000s. I'm like, that's 90s all the way, man.
Interested that it was that. Well, it was in Disturbing
Yeah, to
Behavior.
me, it was 90s.
that movie Disturbing Behavior. I remember it being there. Maybe it's just that it was still in our
Well, when was Disturbing Behavior made? Well, let's
probably
take a step
that
further.
sounds like it would be that time frame, 97, 98.
Right. See, that's what I'm saying. When you said 2000, I'm like, there's no fucking way. I said 90.
Well, I met my wife in 2000, and I know we were listening to that song a lot.
Word. Disturbing Behavior, 98. So Harvey Danger in the Wall song, whatever the hell it was. Wait.
Flagpole Sitta, which I don't think, unless something's changed, is not even officially on Apple Music. You can get a bunch of covers of it, but you can't get the original version of it, which is weird.
That's a weird thing about Apple Music and stuff. And that, again, not even
Therapy is another
the first
one.
time. Although it is again, because we've said this on the show before. I'll say it online, and I'll say this. This is the thing.
New wrestling. Oh no, that's not what we're talking about.
No, stop.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, back to, let me get my mind right.
Flagpole Sitta, Harvey Danger.
Oh, this streaming. This is the problem with physical media being gone and people not supporting it and giving ourselves up and freaking bowing at the feet of the freaking streaming god cloud people out there that now
I can argue this. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
A couple of instances. Well, Therapy,
you don't
Trouble
get this
Gum.
song.
I like Therapy. I love the album Trouble Gum. It's not available on Apple Music. It was a great album. In my opinion, it was a great album. I listened to it over and over and over and over again. And I love the track Die Laughing. And again, you could get an updated kind of live or cover version of it from them, but it's not the same. It's not the Trouble Gum version.
Buddy, there are so many things wrong with iTunes.
It's not just Therapy's Trouble Gum.
Well, I don't know about Therapy's Trouble Gum. I don't know enough about it. I should go back and listen because my mind is fucked and I can't remember that. I remember Therapy, but however, was it Therapy with a question mark?
Yes, it was.
Okay, I remember that then. Okay.
And I think I still have the CD of it. I think I do.
Okay. So I even have these.
Should I try that
notes
when I just pull a CD and see if I grab the right one? That happened one time on the show before. No, it's no doubt this time.
Dude, these are the problems with fuck. I have so many problems that I had them all written down. Oh shit. Awesome. Well, I just have all the stuff written down here about problems that are on fucking that I have to correct in my iTunes because something's wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I have all these things, like, it's hard to explain, but these are albums that are on there where something is wrong. And I wish I could find the freaking thing, but I cannot right now. Damn it. But it's got all these issues on, maybe if I write Led, maybe if Led Zeppelin comes up, let's see. Pink Floyd, The Wall. Led Zeppelin. Let's see what the hell's going on here. No, those are all the top albums. Okay, hold on. So what's this then? Damn it, I can't find it. If I could only come up with it, but I wrote basically to not be too long-winded about this. I made a list of all the problems that I had on iTunes where it wasn't the right music, and I had to go and correct it and put my own versions in. And I wrote it all down one day, and I still haven't gotten to it. But it's just like all this stuff that's like wrong. Like here's an example. Sponge.
Yeah.
Wow. Vaguely. Shit, man.
Kind of in that, like when alternative was the new craze, all those bands came out and whatever. They're one of them.
Well, shit.
Yeah. But
well, I gotta find this stuff out. I wish I had this list, but there's all these issues wrong with these songs that are on there. Like, here's an example, just a random example. Here's an example, just a little sample. Oh, I could just kill a man. Sorry. Okay. So that's how my mind works constantly, by the way.
Yeah.
So
there's a glimpse.
I'm fucked. That's just a brief fucking piece of how my mind works constantly. And I'm expected to be normal. So, okay, here's an example. Okay, stop. There's a song. Okay, it's Wham, George Michael, Careless Whisper. You know this song?
Yeah.
Okay. Careless Whisper. I don't know why I remember this, but I do. Because
Never gonna
original,
dance again.
correct.
Guilty feet got no rhythm.
Word. Though it's easy to pretend, I know you're not a fool.
Yeah.
You know, should have known better than to cheat a friend. That jam. So now, Careless Whisper always had that beginning and the part before the chorus where he goes, huh, 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 huh. You know what I'm talking about? Huh, 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 huh.
Vaguely. Well, it's not
Okay.
on the Apple Music version.
No, it's fucking not. George Michael took it out. Right? He has the rights to it, apparently. The version that's on there, it only comes in at the end of the song on the outro part. But to me, that was always the hook of that song. Was that fucking that's something that made my ears pay attention to it, was that fucking little thing before the lyrics started. And I was like, why the fuck isn't it there? And bands do this. And like Animotion, who sings fucking doom, 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 boom, you know, Obsession. So that song, it's been re-recorded, and I can tell that them singing it, it's not the original exact. They try, but it's not. So bands change these things, and they put almost like a George Lucas effect, and they change it and they put out there, and we only have access to what they want us to have. So if you want the original version of Obsession or the original version of Careless Whisper, you have to go back to your discs, upload it.
What about the original version of the Snatch, the soundtrack?
Snatch the soundtrack, huh? Wow. Classic.
What the fuck do we have that?
Snatch the soundtrack? Something's got to be good on there, right?
Well, these are also my wife. Do you remember this band?
What's it say? Ben Stills 5? Ben Folds 5.
Yeah,
yeah, I remember that. They were hot for a few minutes.
Anyway,
yeah,
it's funny enough, it's not in this stack of CDs, so I wonder where it could be. I
don't know.
Where it could be.
I wonder if I read Careless Whisper here, if it'll show up. Nope.
No, it's interesting. It's funny that you say that. I might not, because you have a crazy memory when it comes to things like that and would notice it. And I don't know if I would necessarily notice that. You know, like necessarily, but there might be other things that would, you know, pop up based on a track that I loved listening to as a kid and how it had like the record or tape cassette of it, or CD for that matter. And then just it hasn't evolved. Like, you know, even the Return of the Living Dead, they might have it now, but they've got the 45 Grave original version of Do You Want to Party?
Oh, it's back.
We've talked about this on the show. We've talked about this on the show before, and those lyrics are quite haunting. It's like it's a crazy song, but the zombie version's not. So I actually had that. I just, because I have the album on CD, I just uploaded it to my iTunes, and so it's on my play. It's been on my playlist for years now, but it's because I added it to it.
Okay. Wow.
From the CD, but it's not available. You can't get that soundtrack, I think, in full on Apple Music. Again, I haven't checked some of these things in years, so I could be wrong now. Maybe they've been updated. I mean, maybe years, maybe it might have been within the last year.
But still,
yeah,
it's still, the point is that, and it's probably going to be the same thing on Spotify and anywhere else you get your stuff. It's just, this is what happens when physical media, when you don't have it saved the way it is, there's nothing you can do about it.
Comedy is a good idea. I'm not saying not all comedy, but there's a big group, I think, again, brought up on the show when we're talking about music or talking about this whole scenario one time before. Andrew Dice Clay pulled this stuff off because another comedian was not getting the royalties that he thought he was deserved based on it. So a bunch of comedians got together and pulled their stuff from Apple Music, Spotify, and everything. So before you could get like any of his albums, whether you wanted to listen to them or not, but I actually like going back to The Day the Laughter Died because it's like it's like anti-comedy. That was the concept of the album, and I just love listening to it at least once a year, where it's like, sporadic laughter because people don't even really, there's no punchline, there's no jokes really, but it's just what he's talking about in his delivery. And there's like 2 CDs worth of material. It's actually
Right.
like it's so funny in a bizarre way, and I do like revisiting that or any of his albums or other artists' albums, and they're not there anymore at all. So if you don't have them in physical format, you are now, whether or not you can still buy them digitally, I'm sure you probably can, but from a streaming service standpoint, gone.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and this is what happens. And
Well,
people don't understand. Some people don't need to collect physical media because they've already somehow been able to get it all. Like you used to have that hard drive and you had all your movies saved on it. So
yeah,
you can always stream it someplace one way or another. You can plug it into your computer and then take your computer and Chromecast it or mirror it one way to your television and have all that stuff at your disposal,
yeah.
which is good, which is the argument some people will have against,
Well,
physical media is not
is it
important because I have this,
and is it piracy when it's for your own use and you own it? I understand
Well,
piracy of downloading
it
and
is
putting it on a
piracy,
drive and whatever. Well,
but they
if
don't
you
care.
own it, but no, I'm not talking about Plex or MB or anything like that. I'm talking about you physically own the CD, you physically own the DVD or Blu-ray or
Well,
whatever
that's
it may be, 4K, and you're copying it. Like I was talking about with that instant thing where you would be able to copy it digitally to your hard drive. You're not sharing it through Plex or anything else. You're copying it
well, that's
in its original
sure.
format for you to use. Some people say that's still considered copyright infringement because it's
No,
copying um the actual physical media.
I disagree because it always says the. Don't you remember the verbiage? Something about
Don't you remember, Jason?
viewing.
Don't you remember?
Jason, don't you remember? Right?
Yeah.
No, privately for home use or something like that. It would always say prohibited outside of something private and home use. So I always
Yeah.
remember that. You know what I'm saying? As long as you don't share it, I think it's legal to copy it.
But I think
As long as it's
Appendix
for home
A,
use.
I think there's a portion out that you're right. There's the home use option only for home use. And then there's also, but do not copy or further distribute this.
Well, we're
So
going to
it's,
yeah.
yeah. So
VHS
there's
days.
the gray area.
You can't buy a VHS and copy it and then fucking rent it, I should say, as opposed to buying it, copy it, and then which everybody did, myself included. But I'm saying that that would be considered piracy. There's no question it would. Simple as that. As far as nowadays is so weird because, and I'm going to talk about a found footage movie in a bit. It's a brand new one. It's not even out yet. I don't even know when the fuck it's going to be distributed. Oh, I should have asked them before I came on here. But anyway.
Oh, well, thanks for sharing.
This is what I'm finding. I couldn't. No, here's the deal. I only had like a day, and I knew you weren't going to watch it. It was found footage.
I'm just being a dick.
You would have had to log into the EH YouTube, and I just think he's not going to watch it.
Yeah.
So I didn't even bother. Now, if it would have been, the pilot for fucking Friday the 13th Crystal Lake, that'd be a different story, or something where I knew here's an interest for you. So now what happened was apparently people only get pennies or 10 cents or something that's streamed on like Tubi or some shit like that.
Or Shudder. This is what I was trying to talk to Preston DeFrancis. Now he was he was giving good answers without spilling the beans because at the end of the day, he wants his movie to be watched and he wants to make money from it. And so they got to watch, like, not to share too much information, but I think he was alluding to that. That's like pennies per stream, or it's not that great. It's like, yeah, royalties, and you hope then your movie's being streamed a million times. But I totally cut you off. I'm an asshole. Sorry,
no, not at all, man.
Yeah, I'm
that's
hoping
a good
that
point.
There's an update. Yeah,
you're adding to the point that I'm making. You're just the thing is,
my wife gets mad at me when I add to the point that she's making when I
well,
interrupt her.
so do I. Understand. My wife's the same way, but we're practical in a different type of way. We're just two dudes
This happened to
kicking
me
it.
yesterday.
We don't get uptight about things like that. You know what I mean? That's just how we roll here. I'm trying to train my daughter to be like me. I really am. I'm like, listen, I'm trying to get her to think a certain way and to have sensibilities more like me, as opposed to her mother and her grandmother and other people that have been in her life that seem to make a big deal out of things that aren't really a big deal. So I'm trying to get her my sensibilities. Anyway, to get out of that now. You were adding on to what I was saying. It's not a lot of money. But and this is what perplexes me. If this is true about Tubi and things and streaming, and it's so little, then here I am saying, hey, you don't want to have piracy for shit like this. These are not I'm not saying I'm not going to advertise. I'm just saying, for piracy to happen all the time in the streaming age and the ease of it and everything else, if this is going to happen, how are people making money, and why do movies keep coming out? So I'm saying this as a rhetorical question and as a real question, because like a found footage movie, okay, it drops. Let's say a found footage movie, Horror in the High Desert 2, came out this year.
Yeah,
If that movie drops and they're only making 10 cents a stream and there's no physical media, the amount of money it takes to make a movie, let's just lowball it and say,
well, this is the thing,
50,000.
Right? Yeah.
How can you think of a way that you're going to make significant profit at all, if that's all they're paying them on those streams? Because my answer is no. So I think there has to be more to it, because otherwise, why would people continue to put the effort into make independent movies if this is all they're getting?
Because it's so easy to make. It's so easy in comparison to what decades before to make. You can literally pick up a phone now and make a movie. We know that this has been done. We've talked about it. Well, we've
how are you making that back at 10 cents a pop when you have actors, you have other people?
You're not. I think the goal is that they're hoping that it will get noticed so that someone will bankroll their next film. That I think it's like, okay, it's there, it's out there to make money. But you're right, there are ones that have done it time and time again. I feel like you're doing it for the art of it. You're doing it for and they know this, and they're doing it for, and when I say art, I mean art then is really in the eye of the beholder, because what one person like trash is another person's treasure. They're doing it for themselves, and it's now put for distribution purposes. Very easy. There's no legwork involved. It's like uploading it. It's no different than Carrie writing a book. She didn't make that much money from it. She made some money, but when all's said and done, by the time you actually, paid for some editing, get the cover made and whatever, what did you really come ahead with? At the end of the day, you do it because you have a passion and you want to put it out there. And some people have a passion and they have some skill, and some people don't. and that's out there too, and you have to waddle through the shit to maybe find a diamond in the rough. But I think really that's what it is, and all these places they've been able to, they know that their content, they need content, so Tubi's the easiest one to go to. I don't know if Amazon Prime has gotten easier, or now that maybe they've gotten a little, or if they've gotten harder to get in, because Amazon Prime used to have a nice shit heap as well. I'm sure it still does. I think maybe they do. Yeah, but
so many things come out.
Tubi is definitely the king of the shit heaps, and I'm not saying that they don't have good stuff as well, but I'm saying that they're the king of the shit heaps.
Well, I would rather have a bunch of potential shit heaps and a bunch of stuff coming out that maybe there's some diamonds and roughs, which I have found, mostly found footage movies. I that's the weird thing. I don't watch a regular movie on Tubi. Nothing new, not anything newer. If anything newer comes on Tubi, if it's found footage, I'll watch it. If it's freaking Slumber Party Massacre remake or whatever the fuck these movies that come out in there that end up getting like a 3 out of 10 on IMDb, I ain't fucking with them. I'm just not, unless I get rave reviews, not rave, but if I get enough decent reviews from enough people saying, hey, this is the Tubi original, but man, this was pretty good. And I hear, just give me 3 people that I know to say that, I'll consider watching it now. It doesn't seem to happen.
I don't
So
know if
I'm
I've
not
ever
gonna
heard Tubi original and good in the same.
that
Uh,
see.
but having said that, as we know, the internet has a voice for everybody. Everybody's got a voice. I mean,
Well,
I guess that's probably a better wording for it. And you're always going to find someone that will stick up for something that's come out, like Toe, because that Kane Hodder one that came out that was just like I don't even know. They had a setting and they had Kane Hodder, and that was about it.
here's what I don't understand. What do I have? How can I say this? This is going to sound arrogant, and I'm not fucking arrogant about it. This is a question that I would like answered. Like, there are many ways that I think I'm hip to certain things, and I'm like, okay, I have awareness over here that other people don't seem to have. And I'm not patting myself on the back, because at the same time, there's other ways about me, many ways about me, that I don't have can't grasp fucking what's going on, and other people are way ahead of me. So, but this is what I don't understand. I find myself having this type of mentality. And what is it about me that 13 fanboy, when I heard this movie was coming out, and I'm not picking on it for any particular reason, I'm looking at it because how did I come across it? Something was going on. I was looking on IMDb,
Because
and
Deborah Sue Voorhees had it on every feed for like the longest time
okay,
ever.
and I
It
was in
was
that group.
it's
Okay,
literally the horror convention group making a movie and getting together and making a movie. And power to them. It's just the way that they did it.
nothing against them. Obviously, I'm there are people that I've supported and that they're part of my beloved Friday the 13th franchise. So
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
all right, I got
Exactly.
nothing. But I was looking at the IMDb the other day. I don't know what brought me to it, but something was going on, and I looked at IMDb about 13 Fanboy because it was something I wanted to know, but I forgot what the reason was. And I started going through some of the reviews, and I see like a 2 out of 10 and this, and I think it's like a 3.1. It's not obviously, you know.
Well received.
But here's
Yeah.
the thing. I see somebody who says, I'm a fan of the entire franchise and this and that, and they sound like they're someone closer to our age. And then they say, I was excited when I heard about this movie being made. What is it about me that when I saw this movie being made, and when I see that Kane Hodder and CJ Graham and all these people from history of the franchise and what's going on is being made, I immediately think it's going to be a piece of shit. What is
Because
it about me that
as much as
what?
you think I'm going to talk as I usually do in extremes, you don't think you're sane, but you're kind of sane. This is a different level of fandom. This is the level that has to see them at every fucking convention and whatever. I don't need that. I don't need their autographs. It would be nice to talk to them and said, I'm not saying like I'm above it all or whatever. I like I said, I'm all about this. I've got this crap behind me. I'm not like, I guess in one sentence, I feel like I'm shit, but it's like this obsessive nature that I don't know, like nothing about that sounded like it was going to be good to me either. So I'm
And
with you.
okay, let me
I'm
go
totally with
another
you
step here. Another
about
step.
13 fanboy.
There's another movie like that, and people were calling it the Expendables of horror when it was fucking first rumor, and this
Oh
person
my
was going to
God.
be in it.
Death
And
House.
but check it, okay, Death House. When I
Oh my
heard
God.
about Death House, and I saw all kinds of people getting excited, I didn't want to come on there and shit on the fucking parade. But in my mind, I'm thinking this is going to probably be absolutely atrocious because these people, what is it about me that that's my mentality, but everybody else gets excited? What's so special about me that I usually know something's going to be a piece of shit when I hear about this and this and this? And other people, these are people that watch horror movies, same as you and I. How come they don't have that cognitive reasoning? How do they not have that in their head when they see this? Like that movie Candy Corn that came out, and like Tony Todd was in it. I could have gone and seen it for free in Rochester at something, or Syracuse, whatever it was. It was like a 2-hour drive. It was a meet and greet. They were showing the movie. I love Tony Todd and Candy. That would be cool. But what was it about me? I got a free invite somehow to go there and participate in this thing, maybe because of the podcast. I don't know how it worked, but it was close. And I got an invite or an email or something. At no time did I want to go because I'm like, this movie is going to fucking suck. The situation, sure enough, the movie comes out and it sucks from what I hear. What
Wait,
is
the
it
one that
about
came out
me
earlier
that,
this year?
no, I think this is like 4 years ago.
Oh,
Candy
Corn.
Corn.
I'm thinking of
Yeah.
Candyland that came out this year. Because I'm
No,
not
no,
saying
no,
that that was great, but I'm saying it was good. Or it was all right.
Oh, I
'Cause
like
good
Candyland.
might be.
Yeah.
I think it was like, 6.5, 7 range for me. Yeah.
I think I'm like a 7. Yeah,
Yeah.
I dug it. But I mean,
Yeah. So that's why I was getting a little, but no, Candy Corn.
no,
Now I'm
Candy
remembering what you're
Corn.
talking about. Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Like, okay, so what is it? What's so special about me that I see these things from the ground up, and it should be something being a horror fan. I'm
Nothing. You're
excited
using the
about
DayZ
because
method. You're expanding your horizons of the cover art thing, and you're just taking it to the realistic nature of that. It's like almost
but
like
why doesn't everyone else see this too? Like, why am I the fucking one who's so special? How come I can see this and say, this
you
is going to
got
be in a
the
void,
gift.
and other people, well, this is what it feels like. You know what I mean? And again, I'm not patting myself on the back, but it's like, it's almost like I'm like, and I don't think I'm gifted. I'm thinking, well, how come everyone else doesn't? It doesn't come as easy to them. What about me or them? What's the fucking difference? I'm not a negative person.
No,
I
I
get
know, and
excited about.
it's funny. I don't consider myself a negative person too, but we have realistic. I think there's a little bit more realistic expectations, and that we're a little bit more cautious. Where there is definitely a whole realm of people that are like rah rah rah, and there is a whole indie horror scene that we probably should be more involved in, based on the fact that we want to make a film that I don't know if I trust. So, and I feel like, but they're all in cahoots with one another and they're supportive. And I think that's what keeps us on the outside. They're the ones that are probably going, rah, 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 13 fanboy, rah, 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 this, that, and the other thing. And
They see it and it sucks.
I'm about indie horror, but there's a difference between with the indie horror that I think I'm talking about and you're talking about, and a lot of other people are referring to, and then these movies, which are really, really no budget horror, like the $500 to $20,000 pieces. And again, I'm not trying to shit on them, but very few seem to emerge from that and stand out. Like, I mean, the most recent one that emerged from that and stood out is what that came out earlier this year, got a theatrical run that has been very divisive. It was Skinamarink again, right? Cost next to nothing to make. And power to him, man. It stood up and made a ton of money. Someone took a risk on it and got a theatrical run, and it made a ton of money. You're going to see that few and far between. You're going to see that few and far between, but there are going to be ones that rise above that. I think everybody's aspiring to create that. Some people know that they've got like that. They're just there to make a movie, and they're hoping for the best, but it's personal to them. They want to make something, and they've got, again, talent, and it could generate something, and other people are just making a movie. They think they know what they're doing, but they don't. And that's when we get these shit turns. And a lot of them are shit turns. I hate to say it, but a lot of them are. And again, you can have the love of whatever community you want, but at the end of the day, if the product's a shit turn, the product's a shit turn. But power to them, they're making something. So there's an argument there, like, well, fuck, you guys are all talk. You're not making anything, and they're right. We're not. We're not. But again, if I'm gonna have my name attached to something, it's got to mean I got to want my name attached to it. Otherwise, it's going to be Alan Smithy, like a movie we're going to talk about tonight, which I don't understand why it was called Alan Smithy, to be honest.
Agreed.
Like, funny enough, but we'll get to that later.
Right. No, but
segue.
Right. Good call. But no, but this is it. We critique film. We watch movies. We talk about it. We have a podcast. We watch a movie, and how many times are we sitting here saying, well, and we just have a mic and whatever in front of us. Other people do this from the comfort of their living room on Facebook. They'll talk shit about a movie. They say, well, this movie sucked. This didn't make any sense. This happened. This, and they'll have legitimate critiques. They'll say, okay, I'm not saying just this movie sucked and that's it. Have a reason. You know what I mean? Especially that's what should separate us as doing something like this from any other person. That if we're going to have a statement, we're going to have a reason to back up why, not just that movie sucked and that's it. So, thankfully we're not like that, but it's like, and we would have no right to. People shouldn't be listening to us if that's what we're saying, but we can watch movies and we do it all the time. And I might do it later. I'm like, well, why did A plus B equal C, or 1 + 2 = 3? How did this happen? This doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it. Now, this is me watching a movie. I couldn't find myself being any different in our movie. If we make a movie and during the process of it, or maybe, because sometimes you film things out of sequence and everything, it's hard to explain, but maybe it wasn't picked up on. But when the final product, or what we believe want to be the final product, is, let's say, screened for us the first time, or we're watching it, if I see something and I turn to you, or you to me, and say, well, how the hell did this happen? This doesn't make any sense. Right then and there, if I feel that way about something in the movie, I don't want it to be in the fucking movie. Because what right do I have as a person who just watches movies, and says, well, I rate this movie a 6 because that doesn't make any fucking sense. This could have been an 8 if this, and this, but that was very stupid. It's not as good a movie as it could be. It's unfortunate. If I'm going to make a movie, I'm going to make sure the damn thing makes sense to me. Yeah, I know, right?
No, and I agree, and that's
I don't want to put shit
too, but I also don't want to. And again, you're absolutely. You've got to. It's got to make sense, and it's got to gel. But that's it. You don't also want it to be the ongoing stumbling block or your ongoing crutch. So you just have to eventually get over it. So again, there's arguments on both sides, because making a movie is not easy. No matter how you want, no matter how you want to make it simplify, or say you could simplify the process as much as possible, but still making it is not easy, because there's schedules involved. There's everything involved, even if it's like a one take fucker. Like I watched Soft and Quiet, by the way. Did I mention that last show?
I don't know. You're talking to? Probably not. I think I might have remembered, because you probably would have had something to say about it.
Yeah. You know what? No, I think it was this past week. So, yeah, borderline. Like, I mean, again, it can easily fit into the horror realm. It's not it's thriller-esque horror, but it's an endurance test, and man, is it well done. And again, I read a review saying that they thought the one take worked against it, but I also love that aspect of it, because it's a one take fucker, or at least presented as a one take fucker. If they can mask the cuts somehow, they mask it. But the performances, because of that fact, it can be very iffy, because you have to worry about keeping that momentum going, and they sold it. I thought everybody did a great job from an acting standpoint. It was not the movie I was expecting. I read very little about it. Good. So, and I could barely remembered. I just remembered you mentioning it, raving about it, and I brought up on the show that my wife had saw that it's on Netflix now, and that it's got a buzz and whatever. That's really all I knew about it. And going in, and I barely, like I said, remembered your reviews. So, but just that you're raving about it last year. So, yeah, definitely worth checking out for anybody.
Yeah,
it's. I was very happy with my time with it. I thought they did a great time, and it was hard to watch. Of course, like that at one point that they say is difficult to watch, it's hard to watch.
But I like things that are hard to watch, especially when I like the way it wraps up on top of it. And even if it didn't wrap up that way, I like certain endings too. But I don't know. I don't even know. Well, if you're making a movie, is this though? If you're making a low budget movie, that's great though. But
I was talking about
that. That's a low budget. That's
another
situation like that. They don't have a big budget. They make a movie. This is the way I look at it. If you're making a low budget movie, your back's already against the wall. You're already, in defensive mode in a manner of speaking. So you better try to make a 10 out of 10 in everything else about that movie. You're not going to have top of the line acting. You're not going to have top of the line special effects. You're not going to have top of the line,
production
technical
value
aspects, production
per
value.
se, but you could definitely manipulate it now more so than ever before in the history. But it shouldn't be like a VHS, like adding glitches just for glitch sake. I'm talking about like, but we've got the ability now to make something that you can film on this look so good. But there's got to be a script. There's got to be some substance.
There has to be a 10 out of 10 story. There has to be something. If you have the story that's engaging, that's what you wanted. That's the success you need to have. So if everything else is on the low end, you don't want your story to be on the low end, aka it not making sense and just things that people can critique. The one thing you can control is the narrative. Everything else you can't control because it's budgetary. But there's no price on what the brain can write. It doesn't matter if you're paying me $10 or $1 million. If you want, writing is writing. You have all control over writing and editing and things like that.
Well, that's it. This a DSLR camera, you can get the images. I will just add one other thing. So the script is first and foremost the most important. The images should not be an issue nowadays, because you've got DSL or even your fucking smartphone with a lens attachment, or just as is. Like if it had to be bare bones, audio, proper audio recording for sure. It's the hardest thing. It shouldn't be hard if you have someone that knows audio, but definitely make sure you've got the best audio recording, because that will sync a production just as much as any bad visuals or whatever. And then you're off to the races. You can edit, sound mix, whatever. If you have a bit of a soundtrack, that would also be nice. But ultimately, from stories is first and foremost, visuals and audio hand in hand. Because I would always probably lean and say, oh, the visuals for sure, but that audio will sync that pretty picture in a fucking second, in a heartbeat, because your movie sounds like fucking shit.
That too, that's tough.
And we've said it time and time again.
Right.
And now there's a lot of things you can do to manipulate it, but you've got to get it right as best as you can in the moment when you're recording. And that's the best way to be able to have total control over the finished product as well.
Yeah. And here's
so
something
we'll continue to talk about it.
Well, this is something else that's funny about it. About what I was saying about the 13 fanboy thing. I'm going back to that to illustrate a point about the way we feel, or what I'm saying when I can look at a movie and have a good feeling it's going to be a turd before it comes out. And I'm like, other people get excited about it, and then they end up giving it a 2 out of 10. And I'm like, okay, so they can see it's a bad movie. I don't understand why they were excited to begin with. Hopefully they can learn from something like this, but will they? I don't know. And that's what makes no sense to me. But the fact that they get excited about that and something like Candy Corn and something else, and at the same time are dismissive of, okay, perfect example. The new movie, The Boogeyman, just came out this weekend. Stephen King's The Boogeyman. It's rated PG-13. It has a generic title. It has a PG-13 rating. These same people that got excited for 13 Fanboy are going to condemn The Boogeyman before they see it. They're going to say it's PG-13. It's going to be generic. Why is this at the theater? I'm not going to see it. It's going to be a turd. And then when it comes out, they're going to say it's a turd no matter what they saw on the screen. That's what happens with movies like this. So this is what I don't understand. At least I'll dismiss against something that's going to be a turd, what I think is going to be a turd right away. But I'm willing to give something like that a chance, because I've been proven wrong before. But you have a better chance at that than, something like 13 Fanboy. And I don't mean to keep bringing that one up. It just happened to be the one I looked up and saw the ratings.
Well, I think they're offended because they have to scrap together by Kickstarter, Patreon, whatever it may be, Indiegogo, the money, the funds to get that vision made, and they're saying the boogeyman, generic as fuck, whatever it may be. Again, I haven't seen it. I'm
I
just saying
saw it.
this is their argument that that it's generic as fuck and it costs X amount of dollars. That's, you know, that money could have been divided to make like 10 indie movies, not low budget, but maybe 10 $100,000 movies. And I don't think the budget was only $1 million. I'm pretty sure it had a pretty significant budget. But and I'm not I agree with that, but we can argue until we're blue in the face. That's Hollywood. That's the movie system. That's existence. That's always
Right.
going to be that way. Yeah, in an ideal world, they would do that. Netflix is kind of doing that, whether you like that or not. They are kind of distributing funds accordingly. Some of them have an elevated a budget that shouldn't even exist, but then they've also been making other movies that they've been investing into that are more like maybe our cup of tea. And so you're never going to get just that. They're always good until none of them make a return, but then they'll just put that money into a different type of movie. So it's the fact that the boogeyman has come to theaters and has been made should be just celebrated unto itself. And then whether you like it or not, you watch the movie and you decide. But hey, it's another horror film that's in theaters. Like why complain about it until you see it?
Right. And if I don't want to see it, I'm not gonna. And if everybody watches it and does tell me this, and this, then I'm not gonna bother with it. That's fine. That's just how I do it. So that's what I don't understand.
I want to see it. I heard it's generic, but I heard it was relied heavily on jump scares. So be it. I'm okay with a horror movie if I know that. So be it. So I go in. It's a generic horror movie that has jump scares. Did I like it? That's what it boils down to at the end. Like, is it worth checking out, or is it too generic for its own good?
No, it's worth checking out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And would you even say it's generic? I just heard
that
is being used.
It's worth checking out.
It's fine. Yeah.
But it's good. It's not great, but it's good. And it's something that you should wait to, here's the only reason I went. This is the only way I will enter a theater because I don't go anywhere anymore. And I went to the 10:30 a.m. show, which I knew no one's going to be at. Yeah. That's what I do. It's a Saturday morning matinee, especially for one with a title like that. Right. Yeah. So I went in, didn't talk to anybody, put my hood up, didn't look at anybody, didn't engage, gave a code to one person, walked in. I knew what theater I was going to, sat in the back. There was one other couple in the whole place, and that was it. So I was undisturbed. Now, if there would have been a crowd there, I probably wouldn't have stayed, but that's another story. But for me to go in there, that was fine, and I did it. I did it because we're doing it on Jay the Dead show, and nice. It's called New Horror Movie. So when new horror movies come out, they like to talk about them on opening weekend. Sometimes I will go, sometimes I won't. Currently, with what's happening with my mind, it's a whole long story, but I did go and I see it. I sat in the back and it was white, and I park in a certain place so that as soon as I get out, I walk down the thing and I can exit the side door, and there's my vehicle. So there I go. But I will tell you,
whole escape plan.
It is a plan. It is a plan to not be around people. Yes. So, and but it's good. But it's not a movie that I would say rush out to the theater to see. I would say rent when it comes out here or whatever.
That's fine. And sometimes generic is okay. Like, we're fans of slasher movies. It's the same fucking principle, like the same structure, the same in a sense, or at least the same story, like used. And they just, how do they deviate from it? Or, again, the kills, the characters, the dialogue. That's what you come for when you're watching a slasher.
I'm so glad
generic is what they are.
I'm so glad you said that, because I agree. You took an example. It's like you went into my brain and picked that thing right out, because I was thinking this the other day when I heard people saying something about being, generic or whatever. And I think I would love a generic slasher. I love them formulaic, because sometimes we'll complain. We'll say, okay, and I'll get mad. I'll even say it, Why don't you do this? Your movie doesn't have to end this way. Why don't you do a swerve right here, and this will make your movie more memorable? For example, in The Boogeyman, there were 2 or 3 opportunities to do something that I think they should have done, and the fact that it didn't work out, I'm like, see, this would have made it a memorable movie. But again, it falls into that same thing. But a lot of movies do it. But at the same time, when it comes to the buildup of a slasher, from A to Z, I have no problem with that being a formula and doing this and not deviating from the formula, because it's been done so few times well. And when what is done well, we love it. So
Yeah.
all you need are kids in an isolated area getting bumped off in good, glorious styles, a good soundtrack, a good backstory to the killer, competent enough story throughout, a great reveal at the end, a mystery that something happens, and good violence. And
You brought this up
how
the last show, but not into
hard
this
can it be?
into much detail. You know, exactly. And again, it was funny because I was thinking about our discussion, how like, and we always use this, like, don't overthink it. But at the end of the day, like, it's a funny thing to say, don't overthink, because it's like, well, you have to have some thought process put into it. But I know what I was saying, and I know what you were saying with it too, is that like we're our own worst enemy, because I was trying to avoid just the simplicity of it. Like, literally, it could be people going into a camp, into a forest, and they get knocked off. And then, is there any
Yeah,
other reveal? No, not necessarily. There have been some of
fine.
those, but something, you know what, they typically don't deliver on some aspect. It might be really
The
bad
kill, the
dialogue,
gore,
or the gore. And a
most
lot
of the
of times
time.
it's the gore. It's
Yep, the
it's
kills,
they're
off-screen kills.
off-screen kills, so
Yep.
nothing about it. You're just like, well, then you're like, the whole reason I'm investing time in your movie is just because a bunch of kids going into the woods to get killed,
I
and you're
want a
not even
body count
delivering on that
movie.
premise. You're not even delivering on that premise, or
Right.
premise at all. And so then it's like, well, I feel like my time's been wasted. You got to have something, at least, and one memorable kill at the very, very least. But like a couple, like that's just slasher film 101.
Yeah, and they
I,
can't seem to get it done even now. Like, and there are good slashers. We talked about Hell Night, or not Hell Night, Hellfest, whatever the hell it
Hellfest
was.
is, yeah.
Okay, I enjoyed it, but it did not give me the feel of an '80s slasher. And it's not because it wasn't set in the '80s, and it's not because it's modern kids and stuff. I still believe that you can make a freaking '80s slasher set now. Doesn't have to be '80s. All you got to do is have the phone its use, or either way, it it doesn't have to be. You just don't get that feel. You just do not get the feel of what it was. Give me something like this, real simple: a Friday the 13th, a My Bloody Valentine, um, the Prowler to a degree, with maybe take out some of the boredom. But I mean, give me something with a simple, with a cool reveal at the end. How? And if you're making a slasher, if we were making a slasher, to me, that's all I want. I don't need all that extra. People are spending the wrong time doing the wrong things. They're trying to emphasize this is a slasher, but with a twist. We're going to have this happen, and we're going to have this. And you don't need that with a twist. Back in 1986, yes, because the formula was the same thing for a while and it started to get stale. Fine. But people always tend to go back to it now. There's a reason for it. But at the time, I understand people get burnt out. But that would have been the time to do a slasher with a twist, a la Nightmare on Elm Street, supernatural slasher. Okay, fine, that's great. But now that we look back at history and we look at all the stuff that's happened, everyone looks back fondly at '80s slashers. Now you look back on it, you have that appreciation. So we don't have to do a slasher with a twist now. We just want a slasher, like something made in 1981. How hard can that be? That's
Well, even
until the day I drop dead. I'm never going to understand this.
Well,
how
even
hard that is.
even the slasher that was just a damn slasher that I'm hot and cold on it, but I own it and I watch it and I laugh at it and it's fun, and that's what you want from a slasher in some regards too. If it's not going to be scary, then at least deliver on some good kills and be a little bit fun to watch. And that's The Mutilator, of course. I've been like
There
all
you
over
go.
because people are like, "How can you shit on that one and you love this?" I don't. It's because there's some shitty parts to it. That Day for Night is worse than The Burning. They're playing hide and go seek, and you can see everybody clear as fucking day. Anyway,
And I still
just,
enjoy the movie.
yeah, and I still enjoy it. And there's good kills or whatever. It's fun. So
Yep.
I've say it's 6.5. I could possibly go to a 7 with it, but I rewatch it. Like I said, I own the fucking movie. But
Word.
the sequel, the long delayed sequel, that's
stop.
a possibly or delayed sequel that could be coming out today. What are they thinking? Meta this, meta that. You had the Mutilator. The guy wakes up, it's the sun, whatever it may be, and they go on a killing spree again. Why are they reinventing the wheel? Why is it a meta slasher suddenly?
See, meta, stop with the meta. It was, again, okay, it was great when Scream was doing it, and it was great in the 90s.
Zuckerberg?
Right. Dude, you know what I'm saying, though?
Yeah. Well, it's fine.
Yeah,
Scream had it,
but
Scream had it, and now and that's fine. And again, I still think that series should start like excising it out of
never
it.
Going
Just,
to.
yeah,
It's bread and butter.
That's what differentiates it. I guess that's what makes it Scream. Okay,
Yep.
I'll come to accept it. I guess
that's fine.
I like, funny because I was reading more recently people shitting on the 6th one, and I said I don't understand it because it's still my favorite since like the original 1 and 2, the original for sure, and then 2 I'm a fan of, so it's right up there with me. I don't get it. Like I thought it was a much better than 5, and I just don't. But I'm hearing a little bit more shit on it now too of what it is. But it's batshit enough for me that I liked it. You were about to say something else.
No, I'm just saying about the meta thing. It's okay once in a while. It's okay to do it once in a while. I think I said this last show. You can tell when somebody's favorite film is Scream when they came up on Scream as opposed to someone coming up on Halloween or Friday. And that is not a diss. This is just saying, like, you might be the killer. That was good, and there was meta in that, and it was fine. But of course, there's a little comedy. It's very hard to do the meta thing without doing the comedy part.
Well,
and I don't need that comedy.
Cabin in the Woods and You Might Be the Killer are 2 good examples of using horror fandom and tropes and convention and playing around with it. And that's where they're having fun. It's even probably more in the nose than a Scream in a sense with that aspect of it. Because Scream becomes forced because those ones are really playful with it and lean more in the comedy, whereas I think Scream is trying to present itself very serious, so that it becomes a little bit more forced in certain installments.
Agreed.
And when they wedge the lines in or whatnot. There's always been something where
they're stuck.
Yeah, whatever it may be.
They have to do it. And that's the thing. And they deserve the right to. They reserve the right to. That's fine. You know what I mean? Scream can have it. It's part of the genetic makeup of it. So I understand. I think it becomes kind of a detriment to a degree, like you say, where you feel like you have to, so it gets wedged in. And it's like, well, why can't you just do a regular or maybe update it for fucking 2023 and let's go back to freaking the original stuff like the 80s. And you don't see it. But there you go. You might be the killer. Once in a while, it's fun. This and that. And the Final Girls. Great concepts.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that we can't have, like Mutilator 2, make it like the Mutilator. Make it a regular straight up. It doesn't have people that are
with the goddamn poster.
Well, yeah, I'll stop. But the people that are half in and half out, that's the problem. If they're not involved in horror the way we are, and they're just coming from a production level, they're the producer or they're investors, they still think that a slasher is what we see now. Like, because of Scream, people still think of that as the slasher, and then they think maybe the new Halloween movies and stuff, and they see the way people act now, and there's a little comedy, and there's a little this, and to them, they're like, okay, this was successful, let's do this. Problem is, people like us that are involved know better and know that is become passé, and now let's go back to the original and try that, but they don't do it. I don't. I'll never understand why people can't. Why they don't figure that out. That things like it's just like, and I'm gonna bring up wrestling, but I'm gonna bring up wrestling in a way.
Oh,
No, no,
yeah.
I don't watch it. This has nothing to do with modern because they probably don't do it anymore. They probably finally got over it. I don't know, but for 20 years in the mid 90s, it became cool to have a bad guy running the show. And they never used to have anyone really running the show before. It was hard to explain. They had a commissioner would come on once in a while and say, "We're going to do this." In the matches were just made. But then Vince McMahon became Mr. McMahon, the evil character, and his foe was Stone Cold Steve Austin. And then after that, his daughter took over, his son, his son-in-law, and the McMahon family became, except for Linda, but she never ran the show on screen or anything like that. But they had heel general managers from that time for 20 years. It was all these heel bad guy general managers that were coming, or they just had general managers. It got so it was so tired after 5-6 years. And they also did it because WCW, the other wrestling, had the NWO and Eric Bischoff, and he was a bad guy who was really running the show in real life and on the show. And it got to be that everything had to be about these bad guy general managers. And it, to me, after 5-6 years of it, it became so passe, kind of like everything. But they continued to do it. I was like, enough already. The time has come and gone. But they hung
The
on to
time
it.
has come
The time has come.
and gone.
The place is now. Is that what they say?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Midnight
it's
Oil,
the same
everybody.
thing. Midnight Oil. You have to get over it. At some point, you have to have enough creativity to just stop. You're just spinning the wheels. You're doing things that have been successful in the past, and you just keep doing it because it's like easy or it's a go-to, but you're not showing creativity. If you can just go back to the way it once was. They always say everything old is new again, and with fashion, things change, and what was once old comes back. Why haven't they done it with a slasher? Like,
Well,
you don't
what
see it.
they've done is the retro version, which is like to make it look like, and then they have to
That
add
too.
something new because they feel like they've got to give it another level. I even said we verbatim like last episode that even when I was writing it, I'm like, I've got to add something to this. It's just I got to have something else here, and I couldn't fall into the trap of that. But that it was because I think this story, again, in my not to sound pretentious or whatever, just I think it needed this element because it made sense from the actual story structure of what happened with the characters involved. So I think it does make sense. But if we were to do the other one, which always surges in the back of my head, that check, not the laptop one, but checkout, like the other slash out that we were talking about, or final
Oh
checkout
man.
or whatever. Again, that one would be kind of cool if you could just all that you would definitely need there is know that you can get a store location for like a few days, like just a grocery store location, whether you have to shoot at night just to avoid any hassles, have insurance to cover yourself and whatever, and then just go in with like a skeleton crew, no pun intended, and
Yeah.
go in and you film and you do it with, 5 people and you make your movie.
There you have it.
Like again,
It's
what I said and which reigns true is that the script that we did, which was good because we needed to get the script done and out, even if it was the first draft, and I say it has to be revised, is at least we did that part. That script is done. I'm happy because that at least was something that was also hanging over me. It's just fucking write the damn thing, and I did. It's been a long time since it's been done. And it hasn't been revised, but then what we realized right away is okay. The downfall is I wrote way too many characters in it because I wanted couples and body count and this, that, and the other thing. And again, I don't know if I want to strip it down because I think I like it as it is. So that's something separate and it's there and it's almost complete in the sense of like it needs a revision, but it's there. And then we will do something that will then be what I said last episode, and I'm doubling down on, which is that single or only 1-2 location type thing, small cast. Something that
right,
you could
man.
really get some people that are, of course, are local or don't mind the travel that are and have to film it in a set period of time as well. Kind of like when they do the 24-hour, 48-hour, whatever hour film challenges. I'm not saying it's got to be one take, but you got to limit yourself and you limit your time. So the script has to be done, the casting has to be done ahead of time. You have to rehearse it, and then you can rehearse it online or whatever if you can't get together in person. And then when the time comes, boom, you go out and then you just knock it out of the park. And it's very easy to do it in a location like someone's house or whatever. And I'm not against that. That's fine too. But maybe to differentiate yourself or to add a little element to these micro budget movies that we were talking about earlier is you get one setting then that can be that main setting that really helps elevate it maybe one notch above the one that's taking place in someone's house.
That's the key, brother. I'm with you. That's what you need. Why can't people figure it out? I don't know. We get sit here till we're blue in the face trying to figure, and it's just so weird. It's just so weird that filmmakers, I don't know, you can't sit down with them. Even independent filmmakers. I wish I had somebody here who had $1 million to spare to make a movie, and I say, hey, listen, give us, what do you call it? Consultant credits or something like that. And we could sit here and say, hey, do this, and this. Don't do this, and this. How hard can it be? I think you could come up with a quality movie.
Find someone that wants to do a good old fashioned tax write-off and dump their money into our movie. Dave, how hard can it be? Just start asking around. You're not talking to people now, so I have to start asking around.
I could talk to people.
Wedge it into conversations. Yeah,
I could talk to people from a distance. We're
filmmakers from North America, and we're looking for investors in our next film. Take place in Budapest.
Dude, here's what frustrates me. I'm watching all these stories. I'm watching about the Tinder swindler, and I'm watching about the Fire Festival, and all these people that are able to get
that one a while way back. Yeah,
to donate, to give money to them. They can get investors so easily, and we can't get dick. And it's just so fucked up. Because here's the thing: I have hustle. I could do it. You have to have something to start off with, though. That's the problem.
Flow?
I don't have that jump off and flow. Yeah,
hustle and flow. Perfect.
Yeah. So
good combo.
Anyway, documentaries. I won't even talk about what we've been watching, but I will say one thing: because of this found footage movie that I got, I considered.
It's yes. Well, can you name it, or do you have? Is it all?
Oh yeah, I'll name it. No, but I consider bringing him on to talk about the making of the film because I figured things out as I'm watching it, and it's found footage, right? But
do it because I've always wanted to do. I told you I wanted to do that more, and it was more me being lazy. After I did Preston DeFrancis on Ruin Me, I liked that, making the movie aspect, making the indie, because it's almost like research for me too. So we can ask this guy about the whole creative process from start to finish to the distribution, and some are more open than others. Now, Preston was on Shudder, so he might have had to been a little bit more close-lipped than this dude that's on Tubi. That might be like, oh yeah, I make 9 cents anytime someone watches it or whatever. That's what I want to know. I want everybody to know, and I'm sure the listeners are interested in knowing to some degree, maybe not every aspect, but that is intriguing to me. As an aspiring filmmaker option of doing that, and then just because even if I never made a movie, that's it's just interesting. How does this work? Because it's new wave movie making. Because this streaming whole thing is something that has only been around for the last 5 to 10 years. What I mean, obviously it's been around long, but I mean from this like business avenue aspect, I'd say the last 5 years more so.
For sure, man.
And Shudder and all these other pop-up ones came in and some of them suck now. I had classic horror monsters or classic horror movies, whatever. It was a freebie app. So I've got my Frankenstein DVD. It's down here. I'm like, I don't feel like going downstairs to get the DVD. I'm going to put this app on. It had, 3 of them at least. Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein or whatever. I go to put it on, 5 ads. Movie's about to start, 5 more ads. I'm like, what? I'm out. And it also switched. It switched. Nothing's on the site anymore. So Frankenstein came up, then it went to a different title, then it went to a different title. Then I'm like, well, this app sucks. So again, there's a lot of shitty apps out there too. Promise you the world. You just see one advertisement after another, and no goods. But yeah, if you could get this guy on to promote the movie, let's do it. He could be a guest. Get him to
That's
watch
what I'm
Bride of
saying.
Frankenstein and Hellraiser Inferno. Is that the next one?
Yeah, I could ask him. Well, I will tell you this. I'm just going to tell how it came about because I'm in that found footage movie group. I'm getting recommends. I'm doing this. I'm going on Tubi a lot. I've been making lists for a while.
Did you
I've talked
post your
about it
list
before.
on that group? In that group? For
No, but I'm
everybody?
going to.
Yeah.
But I will. But they're very
Dave's
knowledgeable.
list.
They're showing me things, and some of them, like for the most part, they've been hit. And a couple have been added to that list as a result. So I'm that's what I'm watching currently. And I'm going to make it so that I'm going to go on this little run. I'm going to keep doing it, and then let's see what my list ends up like. But these people are very passionate. It makes me feel good that there's other fans like me that their comfort movies are these found footage movies. And it's like, okay, so there's a bunch of people that just have that something about these found footage movies, then they just get something out of watching. Yeah. So it's awesome. So I've been in there doing this. Now I've seen some people posting about this movie and saying when this movie gets released, you got to check it out. And like I saw 2 or 3 people post about it and they got screeners. So I weighed in on one of those things like, man, I go, this is cool. And I said, I wish I could get my hands on this. I go, I could review it on my podcast even, and then the guy messaged me. Because he's in, that's something else about the found footage group. A lot of these independent filmmakers that are just coming out with a movie here and there, new ones, of course, they're in the group promoting it and everything else. And so they're there.
Yeah.
And so what happened is, so he messaged me. His name is Sean Robinson. He's the writer and director. And he messaged me and says, hey, I can get you the link. At the time, only 100 people. It was a unlisted link on YouTube that he gave me. They don't have distribution or anything yet. Don't even know when it's going to come out. But it damn well better come out. Because
so is he trying to find distribution before he goes the streaming route, I'm assuming?
I don't even know the difference. I don't know if he's just trying to find streaming or what the deal is or what it is. Maybe we can have him on here and we can find out more about it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't ask all those questions. I only know what other people have said than him. But
we could also do an offshoot of making the indie that we did and then just put it out to the masses right away so it actually can reach more people and have it just an offshoot episode that goes to everybody.
Too. Yeah, why not? That's if we have time, But I'm just going to read you my review because I wrote it in the found footage group after I saw it. And this is what it says. Well, I must agree with what the others have been saying and also recommend Life of Bell when it drops. The movie's called Life of Bell. Okay.
All right.
I won't say a lot, but it had some truly disturbing moments, the kind that you aren't used to seeing either. I would kind of compare it loosely to Exhibit A, Paranormal Activity, although with children being the protagonist, even though it's not paranormal in that style. And it could be what a prequel to Skinamarink might look like. It's not done in that style at all, so don't think that. It's also much better than Skinamarink. I have a found footage challenge list that I started on my podcast years ago, and it's basically the movies that I'd recommend to people who tell me they don't like found footage, implying that if they watch these, it could change their minds. It used to have 68 titles on it. Well, this movie has been added to that list now. I give it an 8 out of 10 and would like to thank Sean Robinson once again for allowing me to screen it. Don't miss this one when it gets into rifle distribution. So there you
awesome, man. That's high praise. Life of Bell is in BELLE or BE?
Correct.
Okay.
So now, and I hopefully we can get him on here because I'm watching the movie, and it's
can't find anything on this thing.
No, that's it. There's nothing there.
Why does he not even have a IMDb page for it?
I guess we can ask him. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Maybe I should have reached out to him, had him on. But I'll say this.
Weird.
I know. I hear you. It's about a family, right? And the people that are in the family, there is the mother, there are the 2 children, and there is the father. And basically what's going on. I'm not going to talk about the plot at all. I'm going to say that there are things that are happening in this movie that I'm watching it, and there are some uncomfortable moments. There are screams let out from the mother, and there are screams and cries let out from the children that are so believable and stay with you, that they're scary in that way, that it seems like a real life thing, that this is the way they react. It's an uncomfortable thing, and some things start happening later, and it's an uncomfort level, but not like what you're used to seeing. It's hard to explain, but it did something to me. It took me it just gave me a vibe, a little, man, that's freaking woof, that's creepy. So
Yeah. Cool.
it's really, but as I'm watching the movie, I'm saying to myself, these children have absolutely got to be in real life the son and the daughter of this mother. Otherwise, they would never get performances like this. This is what I'm thinking as I'm watching. This has to be the answer. Has to be the answer, right? So now the movie ends, and sure enough, everybody has the same last name. The father, the mother, the two children, and the director, being different people. So I spoke to the director, and I said something about this, basically that. And he goes, yes, he goes, that is my brother as the father, and everybody else is my family. And
Awesome.
I said, yes. And
That's
I
how you
said,
do it, right? There's that. Now, is it? I don't mean. Is it like filmed on a like a cam? Is it supposed to be like a camcorder? Is it an
okay,
iPhone or okay? What's the
the
found
setup is
footage?
this. The found footage is this. It's a girl who's been given a camera, almost like Paranormal Activity, when all of a sudden they show up with the camera. But this girl,
Yeah.
Belle, young girl, she's probably like 8, 9. I don't know how old she is. I'll be honest with you, 10. But Belle gets a camera from her father, and she's all into it, and she's gonna start doing her show called Life of Belle. Maybe if she was older, it would
I
be put
like
on
that
YouTube.
because
Right.
I like when they work. That's a great working with the title. I love that.
So
Simple and
it's
and effective. Yeah.
Yes. So it's this girl doing shows. Okay, this is what we're doing today. And it takes like, the horror doesn't start to happen at all for a little bit. Like, you're 20 minutes in, and it's just this family doing
Sometimes
their
that's a
stuff.
typical
But
found footage
no,
movie, like one of
that's what
those.
I
Yeah.
like about it. You
Yeah.
establish it, and there's a build up to what's happening slowly and this and that. So there is that. There's the aspect of what she's filming. And the guy travels for work. The father actually leaves after about 20 minutes in, and doesn't come back for the final 10 minutes. It's mostly the story of what happens with the mother and the children. Okay. So the father leaves, and because his business sometimes takes him other places, it's basically the Paranormal Activity 2 approach, where he has cameras in every room in the house. So it's like, how you watch Paranormal Activity 2 and they show this room, and then for like 10 seconds, like security camera, then they
Yeah.
show this room, then they show this room. It's done like that. That's the Paranormal Activity part of it that I liked, is that they can explain what's going on there, from her show and from the other stuff. So there's your excuse. So there you
Yeah.
have it. And that's what it's done. And that's all I'm going to say for now. I don't know when it's going to come out, but when it does come out, I'm going to tell everybody on the show, go and see it if you're a found footage person.
Well, what I've gotten used to, and thanks to you, and just thanks to time going by and seeing more and more films, is as long as the setup is explained that way, the editing and the actual final product of the film typically is a non-issue for most people nowadays. It's just part of the found footage phenomenon in a sense, or that style of filmmaking where there's like almost like a ghost editor, and like it could go room one to room
Right.
two to room three
You
to
got to go with
her
it.
doing like a vlog. That's fine. It's
Right.
that's acceptable now in the realm of found, which I had a very large hang up with that when we started this show, and when I
That's
said I
fair.
wasn't a fan of found footage, because I'm like, well, who's doing this? Why are they doing it? Why keep recording and everything? And I've let it go for the most part. I've let it go. I mean,
It's
I haven't gone
evolved into
back and
that.
revisit everything. I've evolved. See,
Look
I can
about it
grow,
this way,
McDavid.
see.
Where's my wife? Get her down here. I've evolved.
I've
I'm just
evolved. It's true. I'm a changed man. No, but
We can talk
here's
about
what
found
this is.
footage.
It makes sense to me. Found footage has evolved, and if it didn't, it would be too hard to make movies like this. When Blair Witch did its thing and whatever else came out, they had to explain why they were filming all the time. There's only so many instances where you're going to be able to put that in there and explain why you're filming. Otherwise,
Yeah.
these movies don't get made because you would spend more time on the backstory. You're backpedaling already. Like, okay, what's going to be
Those are the things that
our
get hung up
reveal?
on. Not as
It'll
a
fuck you up.
viewer, but also as a writer, and that's what fucks me up all the time. And you got to just say, "Fuck it, let's get beyond this, and let's get it out, and then just see the flow, and then see, do I even have to worry about it?" But sometimes it's that stumbling block, the overthinking, as you're saying, as we're talking about
Can't do
before.
it.
That's it. But no, this is, I like that. I like it, and I like the premise of it. Sounds pretty simple. This is
Even
what I'm
knowing
talking
nothing,
about. Low
but it's
budget movie.
right.
It doesn't necessarily have to be found footage, but so you
But
use the
still,
found footage realm because he's a fan, family, easily accessible, readily available for the most part,
and they do
and
great.
location,
Yeah.
and they do
And
great, which is that's like
this is
a
what I'm
check mark
saying.
above.
Well, here, this is what it is. The kids are great, but kid acting is usually better. It's usually better when you're kids. But when you have your real mother there and you're guessing it's in your house, this is your familiar territory, and you know you're making a movie and your father's right there. I I think that's how you get the most out of them. That's what I'm saying. That's to the benefit of the movie that you get so much out of the family. It all ultimately it starts with the mother. If the mother doesn't sell it and doesn't do the things she has to do in this movie well, then forget about it. The mother is great at what she does in her performance for this movie. Okay. And the kids, they vibe right off it. And the girl is a natural entertainer. You could tell that she would be someone doing YouTube or something like that if she were older. So Life of Belle, and she just has that about her. She probably got it from her old man. But again, her mother is acting too. So you could just, that's what I'm saying as I'm watching. I'm like, they have to be related, and these have to be her children. And this half of this movie is just them filming what goes on a regular basis. Like the girls playing, I guarantee you that there's just shots of her playing with dolls and doing the stuff that someone her age is doing, that there's no direction. They're just like, okay, let's film Belle or whatever her real name is, playing over here, doing her thing with her by herself, and then with her brother. Let's just film kids playing, doing their thing, brushing their teeth before bedtime at night, this and that. We're just going to show family life. And that's why I can tell it's easy. And I could tell by the way they're on the screen, I'm like, they have got to really be related. And thank goodness. So this guy, he achieved it now. And now he's got to get it distributed. But I said, you know what? I said, you have a beautiful family. They did great. And you made a great movie. Enjoy the ride. That's what I told him in message. Because that's awesome.
Thanks,
Think
man.
about, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Things
that's
are going well.
what
I mean,
exactly what we want to accomplish, right?
correct.
And successful. And the lack of nothing being out there is intriguing to me. Like, not why hasn't he even created a like his own internet movie database page or anything, or just to list it, to have it listed, or and this is, get him on the show. If he wants to be on the show, let's get him on the show.
I might ask him about this. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be a good discussion. So yeah. Okay. Anyway, that's probably that. Huh? We gotta get to summer sausage series. You know what I mean?
Here it is. So it begins. The
The summer
sausage.
sausage.
Before we begin, I'm sorry. I got to derail us again. I've been wanting to talk about this for a couple of weeks, and I keep forgetting to talk about it. The Second Sight Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4K. This has
Yeah.
become like what they're Dawn of the Dead thing, like the best thing. Like look at this packaging, man.
Wow.
It's the case there. The lobby cards that come out, you get some bonus ones from buying directly from them. I didn't know that
Uh-huh.
there was an option, and I've taken them out. I'm not going to bore everybody with all of them now.
Second
There's some
Sight.
great little lobby cards that they sent with it. You've
I'm
got
right here. I
this
ain't going.
no, I know, this hardcover book. This book, that's what they do. Like, you're paying for it, of course, because it's not inexpensive. But this book has great great artwork in it as well, and great essays about the film. I haven't even gotten to it yet. You can almost hear that. I think you could probably hear that crack as I open it. Gotta be careful.
See, I got this one. I don't know who makes it.
So that was the that was the wasn't that the American release? I can't remember who it was either.
Dark Sky Films.
Dark Sky, yeah. Dark Sky, get it. Now there's two separate transfers. Supposedly
you got the better one.
Second Sight transfer and Dark Sky transfer are two separate transfers. And
yours is more expensive.
But it came with that. I just told you, like the hardcover book. Like, look how thick that damn book is.
Right. Which is awesome.
Essays and beautiful diagrams, the lobby cards, which people could love or hate. I love them. And then of course you got your 3-disc collection here, which is the movie on 4K, the movie on Blu-ray 4K transfer, and then another special features disc with extra features. The only downfall of this release, I would say, is if you don't have a region free player, that you won't be able to access those B region Blu-ray discs. You'll be able to watch, of course, the 4K.
That's why I didn't buy it, because I just want to wait for Second Sight just to sell the 4K in a regular set like this, just a movie.
And I think they will. I think they will.
That's why I didn't do it.
Set. But I had to bring it up because
I'm glad, because I have to get it, man. I've heard so many good things. Did you watch it?
That's the funniest part. I haven't had a fucking chance
to
watch it because it's been a lot of travel or whatever. Like freaking Chris A.K. Scott got it. He watched the documentary. He said the documentary was good because it wasn't groundbreaking, but it was good because it was a brand new documentary specifically for this release. But I watched YouTube reviews because I couldn't get to the 4K itself about the transfer, and he had to start the Dark Sky and the Second Sight, and he raved about both, but he said that this is now his definitive version of the film.
That's what I've been hearing.
So it's I've had a lot of 4Ks. I think I mentioned them on the show. I haven't gotten to them yet. Black Christmas, which I probably will save for Christmas now. This Texas Chainsaw, Cloak and Dagger, Temple of Doom, and Raiders of the Lost Ark, for that matter, got earlier. That's all. Just too many. Dressed to Kill, and I know I'm forgetting. I think there's two others. I
got the Carrie one.
No, Carrie. That was the other one, Carrie, and I still haven't watched it. Yeah,
I'll get.
Did you watch it?
I'll get to it. Yeah, no, I haven't watched my Texas Chainsaw, my Carrie. Honestly, I just have. Now, today is the 40th anniversary. Well, no, it was 1982, so I guess 41. 41st? Either way, Poltergeist. Poltergeist came out today in 1982, this date. Maybe tonight I'll watch my 4K finally for Poltergeist.
Well, yeah, let me know, because I told you I really thought it was a great transfer. I have no bells or whistles. I've just got the Universal one. I didn't get the one that, I don't know if it was Second Sight or the one that came with the lobby cards and everything that.
I don't need that shit.
Was released.
Excuse me. I don't need that one.
Yeah, that one. It was really priced heavy. Sorry.
Yeah.
The hiccups too. But anyway.
So. Anyway,
let's get to it. That was a little sidebar because I've been wanting to talk about it for a couple episodes.
And
I haven't.
No.
And so now, and I've got the only other thing on the horizon, but although they haven't even shipped yet, and I said, should I just have these shipped to Dave and go pick them up? No, I want them, and I don't want to worry about them. It was free shipping if I shipped to you. I paid, I think, $30 to have them shipped to me, and they haven't shipped yet. It was the Waxwork re-release of Friday 3, 4, 5. And 6 of their LPs, because I just love
LPs. I was like, what the fuck is Waxwork? Okay.
Yeah, they're LPs of the soundtracks. I just love them. I've been wanting them. They were sold out. And if you wanted to buy them on eBay, people were charging ridiculous amounts for first editions or whatever they were. And I don't even care if it's a first edition. I don't give a shit at all because it's the same artwork and everything else. I just want the them in the collection. So they've been ordered. I paid for them, but they haven't shipped yet.
I hear. I'm waiting on some stuff to get shipped myself.
And then I think that's going to be it. Although I want 1 and 2, I found them for decent prices on eBay, but I'm waiting for those because it's been too much, and then it's going to be a hiatus for a while, for
That's
a
the
long
way.
while.
Yeah, that's okay. Do what you can when you can.
But
That's all there is to it.
let me
So be
let me
it.
bring up this info. Let's start, of course, with the oldie but a goodie, I guess, eh? Frankenstein from 1931, directed by James Whale, I believe is his name, because
Yeah. Yes.
I'm still bringing it up. 1931, Frankenstein.
Which you can't help but think about watching this movie.
Yeah.
Seriously. I'm going to watch this and then Bride next week, and then I'm going to watch Young, just because it's going to be on my brain more.
Dr. Frankenstein dares to tamper with life and death by creating a human monster out of lifeless body parts. And again, like I said, directed by James Whale. Well, I'm checking it. Let me know.
Checking it. No.
Shoot it to me.
Did you see that in the opening credits? Which I think is cool. One thing is cool. It says the creature or the monster ? They don't say Karloff till the end, which is cool.
I do love that. Like that.
Yeah.
To be honest, because when you think about when this was made, at the beginning, that was a kind of when I read, though, I did get a little bit of tidbit of information that was stolen. I think they used it for the play as well. There was a play version of it done before they bought the movie rights, and I think they said that was a carryover from that of the monster with a question mark, which was cool little old school marketing.
I'll tell you, I like old school credits, the beginning and the end. They're a lot shorter, which I understand they were doing a lot less, but the running time is the running time. Like it's 20 seconds of freaking credits and then 20 seconds of credits at the end of a movie. So if a movie says an hour and 25 minutes, it's an hour and 25 minutes for the most part. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, it just ends.
Judge it a little
It ends.
Yep.
Final credit card done. You're out. Whereas
right.
all the credits are at the beginning. And I watched this earlier in the year. I think I mentioned, and I won't go on a long. I watched this earlier in the year. I watched this, Bride, and Abbott and Costello. Funny enough,
wow.
I just went on this tear because I was talking about how none of them made my list because I hadn't watched them. I liked them all, but I feel it's just difficult for me to give 10 out of 10s for whatever reason. Because I never really go back to watch them, even though this is a classic, and although I think Dracula I felt had more dead spots in the soundtrack just from a year before, this one, although similar, felt like it moved a little bit more so, just a little bit more so to me.
Definitely.
I love the sets, but I won't go into my whole tirade. It was just more, or my whole rant. I was getting at the point where the soundtrack is just at the beginning. You have the music for the opening credits, but the movie itself, and this was again a sign of the times, was just the dialogue and the regular soundtrack. No stingers, no anything else. It was just at the beginning. And I think that's what created more, when film became a little bit more mature. I think this was only years later, like 3-4 years later, soundtrack started to enhance the actual film itself.
Yeah.
And that's what's missing. I'd say, although it's still effective without, I will not take it. It's still effective without, but imagine it with a score throughout as well. Now, maybe someone will say I'm being blasphemous, and that's like colorizing black and white films, which I'm also not against. You got your black and white, it's like a remake. You colorize, who cares? If it can introduce the movie to other eyes, who gives a shit?
I agree with the coloring. That's fine with me. That doesn't bother me. But I'll say this. Just like how I was talking earlier about how found footage has evolved, where now they don't have to explain why they got the tapes and everything. And it's just easier to say, this is what we're presenting you with, and it's become normal. I don't necessarily know for a fact, and as much as I love scores to movies and everything else, and I do, I listen to them at night. We talk about them. We have a award on the end of our freaking shows for the best score in a horror movie that year. It doesn't necessarily mean that I have an issue with movies without the score in it. For me, it's almost like every movie has to have a score in it now, and if not, it's glaringly obvious. It's so noticeable. Oh my God, there's no music in the back of this. What is it? What kind of production is this? However, there is something cool and realistic about not having the score that I kind of dug about this. I like not having the score to a degree, and I love that when somebody punches somebody or hits something with someone, there's not an added sound. That is that is real life. Why in movies in 2023, if I punch C, there still has to be a noise that doesn't really happen when you punch somebody? I think it's so overdone now in the world of film that in this day and age, they're still doing that. It's in the 70s and 60s, it was huge. Everything made a noise. Boom, bop, boom, fighting, throwing someone on the ground.
Yeah.
Everything made a big amplified noise, gunshots, bing, and all. Why? Because it's a movie. Why? To me, it's more scary when you leave those sounds out. Like and more realistic. I want to see somebody fucking a punch like we see in this movie and not have that added stuff that came in mixed later. I think it's better without it. It's more realistic to me. How's that?
I can't, to a degree. I guess cinematic was always supposed to be an extension of, but I get the realism aspect. Also, you're a fan of found footage, which typically doesn't have a soundtrack either. I went black and white again. Yes, I went black and white for the people watching because, again, if we did it for one show, when we did The Wolfman, why wouldn't we do it for Frankenstein? And
I'm
so
trying to do it.
Yeah, again, it was in that preferences, once again, preferences and under video, or under background and effects, excuse me, under video filters, and it's 2 from none.
2 from none. Yeah, you're right. Noir.
There you go.
There you go.
So now there we are. We're both back in the day. So I get you're like that because you like found footage. I can understand why the soundtrack wouldn't be an issue to you, because
it makes it scarier in a way. It seems realistic to me.
The makeup,
like especially
the Jack
for this time.
Pierce makeup here for the time, for now even, is phenomenal. Like, let's be like, one thing about Frankenstein is he's an icon. These are the original. If you love Freddy, you love Jason, you love Michael Myers, these are the real McCoys. These are the originals, the OGs. I mean, Frankenstein
Indeed.
with the bolts in his neck and everything else. Like, that's what I wanted to be when I was a kid. Like for Halloween, it was, I wanted to be a skeleton, a mummy, Dracula, Frankenstein. That I still wanted to be that when I was young. And then as you got older, it was a zombie, and it, evolved from there. But this is it. There is something very like about this. It was like, they didn't want to make these movies, but Dracula was a big hit. So like the head didn't want to make the movies. The dad, the head of Universal at the time, did not want to make Dracula necessarily, but it was a big hit. So they knew they had to do a follow-up, and then Frankenstein was the follow-up. And he wasn't necessarily fond of the idea, but his son had been right like twice, because there was another one in between, which I'm forgetting right now, not horror, but another one that he was right about that was a hit. So he said, okay. And then this was another hit, and it just built it. It's like the house that Freddie built for New Line. I mean, this is like, you could say that almost the same. It's not like they didn't have other properties for Universal, but this is much in their DNA, which is why they're trying to bring it back in the last 4 years, but haven't been able to recapture the magic, because this was a simpler made movie. And now they're trying to CGI the fuck out of them. And it's just something about pull back a little bit and have a little like faith in your audience. I'm not saying you could go back necessarily to black and white per se, but hey, the best part of Renfield, and I liked Renfield a lot, was all that lead up shit in black and white and mimicking the love of Dracula and using that the lore and the old movie making aspect to be the backstory of Dracula in Renfield, the new movie. I mean, that was a big highlight for me. And so there's something about that I agree with. The simplicity of it, the black and white imagery is great. And there is some art here as well. I mean, there are things that I never really pieced together, but listening to the audio commentary by a historian, even the opening frames where Dr. Frankenstein is shoveling dirt and he throws it back. And it was a great observation that I overlooked and oversaw of the dirt hitting Death in the face. And he's like, since quite literally, he throws dirt in Death's face.
Oh, interesting.
And I'm like, wow, that's cool, because this is the time of frame like where, yeah, there could be some accidents that made it into the film, but typically the director controlled, like, it's no different than nowadays. Everything that you see on screen was the intention of the filmmaker for the most part. I can't say that about every action movie ever, like nowadays and everything else, because sometimes I just wonder if it's created by a computer. It could be enhanced afterwards. But here, everything that they filmed on in the moment there was for a reason.
Dude, I really enjoyed it. And I'll say that, okay, in 8 years, this is going to be 100 years old. And I'm thinking about the very first, as I'm watching it, I'm watching with Irene. And when they show Frankenstein the first time, when he comes out and they do that thing and then they do the close up, and the other one, it's the way it's shot. It's really, first he comes walking backwards, then he turns around, then they have the zoom, and then another close up and a close up, and it's cool. And I said to her, could you imagine what people felt in 1931 when they saw this on their screen? You have to remember, this is 1931. There are not a lot of movies. I don't know how many monster movies that have been made at all. I know about Nosferatu.
Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. There was a short
Couple.
Frankenstein that like he looked more like an ape or like a Sasquatch or something like that. Like nothing like what we know as Frankenstein, or we envision as Frankenstein.
That must have been so scary. People must have lost their minds, because I don't think they've seen anything like it. And they see him on the screen. And this is what this is what you have to understand. And this is early, obviously, 1931, that these movie monsters came out, Dracula, and then here, and then there'll be others, obviously. But they have held, because nothing else was around and they were the first ones, and they made an impression, particularly, I would say, Frankenstein, because he's a sympathetic figure. And I think people were scared of him, yet sympathized with him at the same time. And this is 1931. They're seeing the movie one time. Maybe they go back to the theater a second time. I don't know.
Well, remember,
back then. But
I think they also just kept playing too, right? If I'm knowing my film history right, it wasn't like you had a 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock showing. It was like it would just repeat. So it'd be like newsreel cartoons movie, newsreel cartoons movie.
Oh, maybe.
Or cartoons newsreel movie, something to that effect. And it would just keep repeating. From my understanding, again, I don't know if every movie house played like that or whatnot, but that's from what I remember hearing and reading about of the theater experience back in the day.
Well, there you have, and they're not going to see it again. There's no rewatching. It's not re-released, and so they see this thing one time or whatever. It's going to be stuck with them for. They're going to remember. They're going to talk about this movie to their kids when they have kids. They're going to be like, yeah, Frank. So of course, Dracula and Frankenstein and the other ones to come had these reputations because there was nothing else really, and they had these memorable monsters coming on. That is why they took on these huge lights. And I'm not knocking the movie at all. I'm just saying that whether I understand you can't say it's a 10 out of 10 movie, neither can I. And we agree on this. However, it's a great movie. It's well made enough. The story, and there's all these positives to it. I think just the fact that, yeah, buddy, the impact that it had at that time, and it held on to all these years. It's unbelievable. And if this monster isn't scary or has a certain look at it or is sympathetic or what have you, the movie isn't good. Because there are other movies too. Like I said, there's Nosferatu. Was there a Phantom of the Opera before 31?
Yes, there was the Lon Chaney Sr. one. That was like 1922 or ish.
That's what I thought.
Quote me on that.
Right.
The famous where he pulls out the one that scared me, just like Nosferatu. Like those.
But were those all silent?
Yep. It was silent. It was a silent one. Yeah.
So that's the difference. The impact of a movie with sound, Dracula and then Frankenstein, is going to be longer lasting, I think. And the longer time goes on, less and less people are watching movies that don't have dialogue in them. You know, one generation, that's what they had. And then But this is why they're so big to this day, and they deserve that. So the impact of this movie and the impression that it made and everything that's happened,
You can't deny it. It's
I
long lasting.
right.
Like you almost feel like the impact is like what you've said for other movies too. Like you almost feel like it has to have a 10 out of 10 because of that long lasting reality of the situation. But I'm just saying, for
Right. No,
me
it doesn't
personally,
though.
I get it. This is influential. It was it's still very, very watchable. My son came in because when was this made? Because you knew it was an older film. I go, 1931 goes, this looks damn good. Like, or darn good. I don't think I'm probably exaggerating, but he says, darn, this looks really good, Dad. I'm like, yeah. And the only reason he probably didn't stay was it was late. He came back from a friend's house. It was Friday night when I was rewatching it. And I was watching it with the historian's film commentary. And
Nice.
so it was a little offsetting because it was just this dialogue being spoken on top of the film, because I said, look, I just watched this, so I want to watch it and just hear what this guy has to say. And there's a lot of great tidbits. Now he deep dives into like the actors and their careers and everything else, like you would expect. It was like almost like he was reading from a script of an essay he wrote, which was very entertaining, but not the type of commentary that we're used to hearing
Right.
as well. But like the tidbit of literally throwing dirt or into Death's face was great. The camera movements and the use of movement there when it is used, because a lot of it is there's a lot of static, but sets, locations like this set that is behind me here visually, the laboratory,
Awesome.
iconic and fantastic. And it was, it's something that has been used time and time again as these movies have progressed and as time has gone on in cinema as well. But yeah, the whole introduction of Frankenstein as a monster would have been scary for people. To get back to your point there, that would have been fantastic. And I was going to say, build off what you're saying, the silent films they didn't have a soundtrack on the film until they got re-released. Like, and I'm talking about for us to watch on video, DVD, and everything else thereafter. But at the time, you had musical accompaniment during the film. So wasn't it interesting that only music was used on the actual soundtrack for the credit sequence, when movies were so used to having an accompaniment? You figured that they could have added that to accentuate it. And I think they realized that did create tension and mood very quickly, like I said earlier. And so it was added into movies thereafter. But that would be the only thing. And again, it's sign of its times. It's not the fault of anybody, because at the time when they're making it, this was all new to them. They were creating the craft. It was evolving with everybody at the time. But yes, the use of black and white, the sets and everything else, the acting is great. And even Dr. Frankenstein, like you feel, you kind of feel sorry for him, even though he's a little bit off his rocker, as we know.
Yeah.
And the monster, you're right, there's sympathy with them, like the whole floating of the floating of the flowers. And he just thinks, oh, it's so great that he thinks the girl could float, and then he kills him. My question is, how does the guy know that it was a monster that killed his daughter?
I'll tell you, this one I was able to figure out, because they say that the monster has been seen terrorizing the countryside. That's what the guy, which I thought was a little silly. What can he possibly? All I know is that the villagers, the villagers probably saw this giant man looking this way, walking around, so they immediately deduced that it's not any of the villagers.
Yeah,
there's this outsider, this giant.
But couldn't you just fallen into the thing to drown? Like, I get it. It's a movie. They needed to get from point A to B. And you're right. I do remember that line from earlier when I watched it earlier in the year. Again, kind of got played over with the commentary. But I can't take away from the power of just the look of absolute distress and just like defeat on the man's face as he's carrying his lifeless like daughter through the yard. And of course, based on the age of everybody, she was one of the ones that survived to be able to be interviewed, I think, well into the like 70s and 80s, I think. And she was saying that was the hardest thing, is being limp. And she was in pain because she just had a limp, and she was like bouncing around for that whole sequence there. But great sequence with Frankenstein and the girl. I don't want to take anything away from it. You're right. No. They that one line is supposed to explain it, but still, how did you know she didn't just drown? I don't know if they said there was any marks on her, because
Well,
he just tossed her because he wanted to see if Beauty could float.
right.
We
Happens
know
all the
Hope
time.
floats, but Beauty not so much.
Right. A shit float is the question.
Yeah.
Let's see if shit floats. What movie?
Yeah, that's oh fuck. Isn't it Trick or Treat?
Nope.
See if shit
Nope.
floats.
Oh,
We've
let's
had
see
this
if shit
on the show
floats.
before. We've
And
had
they
this
throw
on
him
the
in the
show
water.
before.
And he gets thrown in the water right after. After they said, let's see if shit floats, a couple of people throw him into a pool.
It's not Trick or Treat.
No. When would that happen in Trick or Treat? Who do they throw in
He
the
gets
water?
thrown into a pool there too.
Who does?
Trick or Treat, not treat.
Trick or
Ragman gets
Treat?
thrown into a pool.
Huh? Venkman.
Ragman.
Oh, yeah, he does get thrown in a pool. You're right. I guess I can see that. Yeah, let's see if shit floats. Good call.
Yeah.
Nope,
but I know the movie you're talking about.
Yep. It's from the 80s, too.
It's not Stand By Me. It's something. Is it a horror film?
Nope. It's a comedy.
But I know the movie. Let's see if shit
One of the
floats.
greats. You definitely know the movie. And I've referenced it here more than once. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I'm gonna be very upset when you tell me the movie, because I know it. What is it?
Revenge of the Nerds.
Yes, fuck.
Dan Gable says it. They throw freaking, what's his name in? They throw Gilbert in
yes
at the freaking thing at the end of the movie.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
I'm upset with myself.
It happens. So I wanted to mention something. Percy B. Shelley is the person that it says this was written by. Why isn't it Mary Shelley? In the credits, it says Percy B. Shelley. Isn't that something?
I thought,
I don't know
wasn't
why.
her name there too?
No, just said Percy B. Shelley. It said written by. Remember, there's only so many fucking credits in the early days. That was the writing credit.
Interesting.
Yep. Yeah,
because
isn't it?
Because I thought I read that, because I remember he was also talking about, this historian was talking about how it was very confusing credits, because it was like written by, based on a play by, whatever, because they took it from the novel that she wrote, that the play was then produced, and they took elements from that. So it was all kind of combined from a writing and creative standpoint for the film itself. But I didn't actually notice that she wasn't credited as Mary Shelley.
I know why, because Percy is a man's name in this instance. And it says in the IMDb writing credits, Mary Shelley from the novel by, and then it says in captions, as Mrs. Percy B. Shelley. You know how in the olden days, somebody would be introduced as Mrs., and they wouldn't put their first name, they would take the husband's name, but they were the Mrs.
That's fucking weird, eh? Imagine that.
That's probably what it is.
Mrs. Christian Luciani. It's bizarre. I couldn't imagine that. Yeah.
It's a sign of the times. I know. I hear you. So that's why it's weird, because when I saw Percy, I thought maybe it was a female, but it's probably the gentleman. You know, Percy is the guy's name too. Probably more male Percys than females, right? So either way, for some reason I went to female, but I just kind of figured this out now. So yeah, what the hell were we going to say about this? The monster threw him in the water, the girl in the water, well, again, he's not doing a damn thing wrong, the creature. It's fucking Fritz, that asshole, who gets everything he deserves, because he keeps antagonizing him. He's fine. He just doesn't want to see the fire. He's just fine. This is the weird thing
fire
about
bad. I mean, this was just a visualization of fire bad, but
well, right. But in Young Frankenstein, he acts a fool because he has a criminal brain in him.
Well, so does he does, though. He has a criminal brain in him too, and that was not in the original novel.
But he's never bad. He doesn't do anything wrong in this movie. He look at what does he do that's criminal? He comes out looking a certain way, okay? But he is not aggressive at all until Fritz is messing with him. Even if he doesn't have a criminal brain, he just has a feeble brain, okay? Or he's simple because of because he's being put together this way, in this manner. But he doesn't do anything criminal. Like if using the criminal brain, he doesn't go out and throw the girl in the water because he's angry or anything like that. He is just simple-minded. That's what it should have been, because he doesn't really do anything bad. Like, even in Young Frankenstein, doesn't he get mad a couple times and do something bad? He tries to do nice, but he loses his temper, right? He doesn't do that in this movie. He's only like simple-minded. He's not a criminal mind at all. It's almost like they didn't even have to do that. They could just say, well, it's dead
That
tissue.
is the argument. It was supposed to be a regular brain, and they were almost thinking that they needed to have that so that it gave him a reason for the evil, like, even though it wasn't evil, that
But
he
that's
actually
it.
committed the. It's funny because it's an innocence, but it's almost like they wanted to double down on it so audiences wouldn't be like, why would he do it, or be up in arms. I think maybe, maybe a sign of the times as well, that they had to have an actual reason for they added that aspect, I guess. But you're right, because it's all innocence.
Yeah, it's not
Which just makes it more devastating in a way. But there's too many. There really is too many iconic things to just ignore, like the laboratory. We talked about what it's behind me in the visual here of the back, but just when it rises up and everything else, like that's icon. That's stuff we all know from Frankenstein's lab. If you say it, you visualize this in your head. And then of course the angry townsfolk, or the village people with the flaming torches.
The village
not those village people, but the town folk, the townspeople coming up with the torches on fire. Like that made it into fucking You Better Watch Out, or Evil Christmas Evil. Like, I mean, for Christ's sake. But it was something reserved for the old monster movies and Hammer films that stemmed and built off of them, and essentially modernized them for that time. And that's just the stuff that you remember. Like, it's crazy. I mean, there's a lot of townspeople coming up.
Yeah.
But
well, you know what steals the show for me? Or who steals the show in this whole thing? Is what's his name? The Baron, the old man, Baron Frankenstein, the father of fucking
Baron von Frankenstein. Yeah.
Dude, his fucking dialogue is great. He's like a curmudgeon type guy, but he has like a facetiousness about him, this sense of humor that I love. That everything that comes out of his fucking mouth, to me, is like the best parts of the movie. He carries the film in the middle, to me, that it makes it more enjoyable. And I was thinking of it as I was watching it, and then finally my wife said it. She goes, "He's your father." I go, "Yeah, he does remind me of my dad with all the things he says and everything else." I go, "It's funny because he kept reminding me of my father. Like that's like the things he says, like, to a degree, and like his like wit. It's hard to explain, but he was the best part of the movie to me. He carried the movie almost like I'll say like Loomis carries Halloween. To a degree. It's not going to be the same thing without Loomis Halloween. This movie, to me, isn't the same the way the narrative goes without him. Otherwise, it's just serious the whole time. And I'm not saying he's not serious, but he has like a wit about him. And I can't explain it, but he is a very essential part of the movie to me, where I don't think I'd enjoy it as much had he not been in the movie. I don't know what you thought about it, but
I can't disagree. I didn't put as much thought into that, but yeah, you make a valid point. And I just looked him up, and he was in a good chunk of films, but he actually passed away 2 years later.
Wow.
After this, because he was born like 1858.
Wow.
But it's a very, there are images in this that pretty much, like, any horror fan should just know. Even a young horror fan should have some like knowledge, or at least have it in their psyche somewhere, that this is what, like I say, you say Frankenstein's laboratory, you know what to expect, or a mob of angry townsfolk or village people, you know what to expect. They're just things,
alive. That line there. You'll see this forever, that line.
They use it over and over. Like, it's been around, it's been in music, it's been in film, and it's been used and reused. If they do a collage of horror films, it's typically one of the clips that's in it.
Seriously. Can you think of a line from the earlier Universal horror movies where something is that popular. I don't think there is
Dracula,
another one.
Children of the Night, what music
That
they
would be my
make,
number 2.
or something
I
like
agree with
that.
that.
Like, but
I was thinking that.
here you are, the two
But-
first movies, and boom.
Right. But those are the two. That's what I was going to say. Outside of that, Dracula, you know, Children of the Night, what music they make, I would have said next. Right. But this is more exuberant.
Yeah.
This is more,
Well, because
you
yeah,
can
because
put it in
of
different
the
things.
of the fact that of his accomplishment,
Right.
and whatnot. And it really is ahead of its time, and it really plays with, like, they had some trouble. They had to have the introduction from the dude that's the doctor, the other doctor that's in the movie, and he comes out, and it was filmed way after production, I've learned, and he comes in, has to do that introduction, kind of to almost like a trigger warning.
Right.
Like a nowadays we have to well, you don't have to, but that seems to be a new thing that needs to be done. And back then they were really worried about people being outraged with this guy claiming to be God.
Well,
and we were talking about re-releases. It did get re-released, and depending where it got re-released, they had to edit certain things out because of it, just with religion and everything else, and worrying about offending people too much.
That's what I just thought they'd be afraid of the monster. That's what I thought. It was like a fear thing, like
Well,
what I said when I told
being
Irene,
God. It was that line about a man being God.
Oh.
Sorry for cutting you off there.
Right?
That-
Okay.
They were worried about, and some lines were actually cut out and only made available like years later, like in closer to our generation of being able to actually see for the first time since the initial release. Isn't that odd?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
wow, that's something. What's this Tommy Rod about? Tommy Rod. There's a couple of lines I wrote down at that guy's.
because they didn't have cock of the walk in here.
Holy shit. Boy, am I glad you said that. Hold on 1 second.
Uh-oh.
Please.
Why? Or not but why?
Hold on 1 second, please. Hopefully I can find it now. How do you damn, I tried to do this last week. I remember I said I wanted to pull something up for you and I couldn't, and everything else. And let's see, saved. Okay.
Oh, the reels.
Yeah, the reels. It's a reel that I have. Don't tell me I still can't find the fucking thing.
Whether you find it or
not.
not, it will be whether or not you can play it through without us adjusting the fucking sound preferences.
No, we fixed
Zoom
it.
as well.
Remember, it's not like that anymore. We fixed it. It's the sound preferences. Oh well, maybe next show, because I just saw it 2 days ago. I'm like, now I know where it's gonna be. I can play it. Sure enough,
Cock of the
I
walk?
can't find the fucking thing now. Unbelievable. So anyway, what the hell are we saying? That guy. Okay. Some of the things I wrote down. Fritz is a dick. This is true. How about the guy? The guy comes in, the Baron. He goes, this place seems to drive everyone crazy. He says when he gets to the fucking laboratory, he's only there 5 minutes. This place seems to drive everyone crazy just because he hasn't seen his son in a short time and all that. And then, did you notice at one point he has a toast to young Frankenstein? Literally, that was his words. A toast to this.
So that must be where he got the name from as well, just as like it's an homage to an actual line from the movie,
right?
And we ever mentioned Igor, like, I mean, it's right out of the gate, like his faithful servant, like you've got it right here, and he, because we've seen this before. Well, we've seen it before. Like he pretty much becomes like the staple of everybody that followed.
Right,
took a page
100%.
from him. Yeah.
Yep, you're right. The assistant, the freaking 100%. Yeah, and that always stuck with that. That is pretty cool. He's survived all those years having that guy to steal the brain because it can't be the doctor. He's too good for that. He's got to send someone else to do the errand because he's a man of science. So he has a gopher do it instead. And he's a simple man or a guy with a hump or something. It's funny that it's always like that.
And it is really funny when you actually watch this after seeing Young Frankenstein again so many times, and even recently as well, that how much of a love note it really is to these movies.
Oh,
because
right.
I mean, it takes a little bit from, I think from Bride as well. Well, it does, based on how we know it. But it's like he takes sequences, but then pulls comedy like verbatim, like the the normal versus the abnormal brain versus the
Right.
lightning and whatever, yet somehow makes it funny in Young Frankenstein, where it's played straight here. And
Right.
then Abby Normal, he gets the
Yep.
laugh from, again, it was the guy's name or person's
Uh-huh.
name instead of whatever. But there's a love note, plus as well as a recreation of the
Yep.
actual film, because I think they try to get the same sets for Young Frankenstein as they
I think it
used
is
in
the same set.
Frankenstein. Yeah,
I think it's like a
or at
big
least
deal about it.
yeah,
Yeah. That
good
it was
chunks
still
of the pieces
standing.
from it.
Something like that. Yeah. Here's what's cool. The fact that Elizabeth, Miss Elizabeth, as she's called at one point, has like second sight. I like that. And they don't make a big deal about it, but she just says, I just have a bad feeling about this and about that. And I go, that's cool. And they don't make a witch out of her. They don't make a gypsy out of her or someone with a crystal ball. Just someone, just like in real life. Some people have awareness that we don't have. I truly believe that. And I like that it's just something small like that. That she goes, I just got this feeling. And it comes to fruition and she's not vilified for it. You know what I mean? Like back in the early days, the way women were, treated over having anything like that. So I think that that's cool. It's a little tiny thing. But I love everything until I have questions towards the end. My first question is this: why does the creature come to Baron Frankenstein's house? They were really that close all that time from where the laboratory was, where they had to get him. And, why at the end of the movie, after he clubs freaking Victor, who has a fire, but all of a sudden he's not afraid of him. Pardon me, Henry, not Victor. I always want to say Victor because of Young Frankenstein. Anyway, so clubs Henry. Why does he take him with him all the way up the windmill? What am I missing about two things in this plot? Is there an explanation? Because I couldn't figure it out as I'm watching.
I think so. Whether or not I give you like my take on it or whatever explains it or not, I'm sure there's an explanation. I think close proximity was just to get it to the point because he's fixated on beauty, and so that they wanted to bring it back to Elizabeth and have him come and get her. Now, supposedly that was even supposed to be a rape. It was supposed to be much more, but again, they can only show and get away with so much. But it was supposed to be like that, to that brutality, which
that's what the book says.
I think. Yeah, the book, and I think the play alluded to it as well. In fact, again, these are not my thoughts, guys, because I don't know what the play did because I wasn't there to experience it. So I had to rely on the film historian that's talking about it during the commentary. Mentioned that to rip her clothing to the amount that the censor will allow, and then there was supposed to be insinuation of a rape and that's where that abnormal maybe brain portion came in. So I don't know if that was in the book, but that was definitely in the play version. Because I can't, to be honest, I can't remember the book. I've read the book. I've actually read this book and Dracula way back when, but I don't remember it in the slightest. I'd have to reread it to know if that was insinuated or put into the book as well, other than more of just an attack and left there.
So he just happened upon that place, is what you're getting at.
I think he was coming home. I think that was it. He was coming home.
But that's not home. But he's not home. He's at Baron Frankenstein's house.
Oh, yeah.
They took him away from the laboratory because he was gone all that time, and they brought him back home to get him right mentally and to be married and be with his family and to leave that behind. So the monster, I can excuse, okay, I'm not going to nitpick and say, well, why is the laboratory so close to fucking Baron Frankenstein's house? I'm not going to be that obnoxious about it, but the fact that he happens upon that house is also a little bit convenient on top of it. That's all I'm getting.
Yeah, and maybe there is a bit of convenience there, but then he comes to drive, I guess, to push the movie into its climax, and of course there's higher stakes, and I believe it's just like my creator, monster creator, like you're coming with me. I think that was it. Like he was
but he attacked him.
Yeah.
But he attacked him for no reason. The guy he had fire with him and he was trying to actually kind of be cool about it. Henry, I'm saying. And then fucking, he just goes right after fucking Henry without even being threatened by him. And then seemingly fucking kills him because he punches him, whatever, and he goes down and he has blood on his mouth. So why would he have the reasoning, well, he may not really be dead, so let me take him with me up these fucking stairs and go up here just to, it was just a question. And that's the answer I gave my wife, because she asked me. She goes, I don't understand this. Why is he doing this? I'm like, well, maybe it's like a father-son thing and it's his creator and he's bringing him. But at the time, I felt like I was making an excuse for it. I was like, it doesn't make a lot of sense that this would happen. He just supposedly killed him.
Yeah.
And why is he going into this windmill in the first place?
You're right. Well, again, like a climatic, a climatic.
I get the ends to the means.
Yeah.
Right. I just, as I'm watching it evolve, I'm just like, it's just something that I questioned. That's all. But
so be it. I mean, I don't have a definitive answer for you, but I thought just
and then he throws him off. Why does he throw him off if he cares about him? If he, taking your theory, oh, I feel bad about him, maybe he's not really dead, I'm going to take him with me because he's my father, so to speak. But then just for no reason, when they separate, I'm going to take, which is great, probably one of the best parts of the movie, when he throws, I was shocked by it. I was like, whoa, he fucking threw him and landed on the arm of the windmill, or whatever you want to call it.
You can maybe make, I know, it actually was really well done. Maybe you can make a parallel then. He's trying to throw beauty away because he didn't realize it, based on like for what he did with the girl, and maybe get him away, not realizing that would cause his death, or well, definitely if he wasn't dead, finish it for real at that point as he bounced off the windmill. But that's the only thing I could bring to it based on your question. That's what I would say. But that whole sequence, to be honest, is very grandiose. It's actually it's really well done.
That's great.
I didn't really think of these things. You bring it up, and now that's why I'm trying to backpedal and think about it. But that's all I could think of. Is you're drawing that parallel of, again, throw him to freedom. Like maybe he's thinking he's saving him at this point. But why the change of mind? Maybe you could bring back to the abnormal brain factor and causing confusion and whatever. And he's just in that, knows that he's in trouble and just wants to free him from it.
Fair enough.
Or he's showing rage. He's throwing him down to hurt him. But I don't think that was the, right. I think he was just kind of scared, like, and back against the wall type thing.
Just things that cross my mind, like when I watch any movie from any year. I watch the movie, and if I have a question, I have to question it. If it doesn't make sense, I have to find out. But it's just, so it is what it is. It's okay. It doesn't bother me. I just maybe wish, there was more explanation or they did something different. But it's okay. I'm not knocking. It's a great movie. I still love the movie. I'll say that. So there's nothing.
What are you coming in at then?
Before I give that, one more thing. Did you realize how long that bell was ringing for in that fucking movie? Ding, ding, ding. The bell, because they're getting married, I guess, in the town. It went on for about, no lie, 20 straight minutes. Because Irene kept saying it. She's like, how long are they going to ring that bell? They rang that bell. Who rang that bell? I beat you to it, I think. But did you pick up on it? The bell ringing nonstop from the time they went to their wedding day, supposedly, till the villagers end.
Shockingly, not when I was watching it. But now that you bring it up, yeah. But no, it wasn't like I didn't even really think about it then. But
dude, it was like really 20 minutes of straight. Yeah, and straight bell ringing. Then that got supplanted by dogs barking for like 5 straight minutes. I go, well, now you complained. There's no more bells. Now you got forget. Again,
I think we're talking about the beginning of cinema. Although it's been around for a while. I'm just talking about as it's evolving. I think it's just, that was state of the art at the time.
Yeah, hey, I'm not knocking that. I just found it a little funny. It is what it is. It is product of its time. So anyway, here's how much I loved it. It's an 8.5 out of 10. I wanted to give it a 9. That's how much I was into it. But because of those questions I have that I just posed to you, I was leaving it to that. If you would have had some great explanation or this or that,
I don't.
Said, okay,
I don't have a great explanation.
This means this. So 8.5 is fine enough for me.
And I'm right there with you. I'm the same way. I feel like I feel like a 9 is very easily, you could say it's a 9, and I'd be fine with it too,
Right.
just because of the icon factor of we're saying with it's alive, alive, alive,
Yeah.
and that we say it's in every collage. And horror has started with Dracula and Frankenstein, and some silence that came before it, and we're all here talking about it still because probably these movies existed. Just like you could say it for metal, would it eventually, or metal, or any type of, I guess, any genre of music as well, would this exist if, these films didn't come out? I'm sure horror movies would have come about, but these were pioneers, and these set, like, kind of pretty much laid the gravel, if you will, for
Right on.
what came after.
Yep.
I'll stop rambling on, and we'll get to our next film because we are running long. And this is from 1996, so a little while later, Hellraiser Bloodline.
Okay. Now,
oh, wait, let me just give you
say what you're going to say.
In the 22nd century, a scientist attempts to right the wrong his ancestor created, the puzzle box that opens the gates of hell and unleashes pinheads and his Cenobite legions. And it does say director Kevin Yeager here on IMDb, but he left the movie and gave it the Alan Smithy moniker.
So Kevin Yeager, is that Kevin Yeager, the fucking makeup effects person?
Yeah.
Got to be.
I thought you knew that.
He directed this. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I did remember that. Okay. Either way. 1 second here. 1 second. Actually, I'll wait. Okay. So full disclosure.
Yeah, let me take this off.
Full disclosure. The reason I pushed last year and this year to do a summer sausage is because of these Hellraiser movies. And what I'm going to say is this. About 3 years ago, maybe less, I sat down. This is where it ended for me. I saw 1, 2, 3, and I saw 4 one time in the past. Now, this is good. So hold on 1 second, folks. Okay. So this is what's cool. I had only seen those parts. And I think I saw, Bloodline when it came out. I don't remember hearing about it at the theater or anything. But by this time, I wasn't reading Fangoria. So none of that was going on. And I just didn't see the commercials or something at the theater or anywhere. So I don't know if it came to theater. In my mind now, my recollection was that I was going into the video store, which by then had to have been Blockbuster because they put all the mom pops and my favorite place, Video Factory and Movies Plus out. So I'm going to say that I was inside Blockbuster once, and on the new release shelf, I saw Hellraiser Bloodline. And that's how I found out about it. And I was like, wow, look at this. And then I'm like, so this one direct to video? Well, this is going to be bad. And I didn't think to watch it. I think obviously eventually I did. Sometime in the 90s I did. Or maybe it came up on cable and I finally gave it the time of day. But I don't remember hearing about it prior to that for whatever reason. Now, maybe Christian has a different take and I'll ask him in a minute. But
I do.
Okay. All right. So this is what it is. I didn't watch any of the ones. I saw, like I said, I saw Bloodline once, right? And then I never saw anything after. And I heard a whole lot of people talk a whole mess about how bad the Hellraiser sequels were. So I never messed with them. And then one day I just wanted to watch Inferno because I saw like a few minutes of it once when I lived in Vegas on cable, just flipping channels. And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And it was something showing one of the, whatchamacallit, one of the Cenobites that I thought was kind of cool. And I was like, oh, look at this. And I had that image in my head. So one day I decided, hey, I'm going to watch this Inferno. So I watched Inferno and I liked it. Didn't love it. And what I'm going to say is this, that movie, and then I continued on watching all the rest. Every single one of those movies, I rated on Letterboxd a 3 out of 5. Every one of them was like it would be like a 6 out of 10. So I always took it from that. I'm like, man, I think there's a lot of unnecessary hate about these movies. Everybody shit on them all this time, and I actually don't think they're that bad. So I'm watching them like they're fine. Do I want to watch them again? Maybe not. But I just thought that they needed their just due, and I thought that maybe, if we found a way to talk about them on the podcast. And what's cool about these movies is every one of them is different. And that's why it's not going to get boring, I don't think, like talking about other franchises where it's the same thing. At least I think there's going to be a little more to talk about with the Hellraiser movies, which is why I wanted to do Summer Sausage again, specifically for these Hellraiser movies. And we had to find something to pair. So I hope people are going to take the ride with us and watch these. And maybe
I'm actually happy about it too.
So now this brings me to you.
Yeah.
First and foremost, okay, you have a different.
Your camera's off. Do you know that?
Yeah, it's back now.
Just I didn't know if you knew. I just making sure.
You're good. Appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to ask you 2 questions, and then we can get into the movie. Number one, you alluded to it already. What were your experiences of Bloodline?
Well, I didn't want to. I always interrupt you, so I tried not to interrupt you this time. And I'm glad. I'm very happy because I was going to. And it was that I did see this in the theater. It had a theatrical run, and I saw this with Vince, who, if you know the show, is my co-host on TGIF 13, which we haven't recorded in 2 years, and another buddy of ours, Jeremy. We all went out, and Vince and I being horror fans, Jeremy being a fan of movies and liking horror film, he just joined us, and we all went and we all watched it, and we all said that was okay, that was good. It wasn't. I don't know why when we saw Alan Smithy, I'm like, because that was a big joke, because we're all film buffs and whatever, that like this is not going to be great, and I actually have always had a kind of a soft spot for this movie. I own this. I used to own this on Laserdisc. I actually like this a little bit better than Part 3, or on par, or on par, or half a notch above Part 3. So it's not great. It's messy, but it's passable. It's passable, and the best parts of it are that toy maker. I love how they call him toy maker through the whole that fucking thing. I do like that, but I love the parts in the past where he's building it, and all of that buildup. And this movie is gory. It delivers on the gore. So I saw this one and liked it. So it was in the theater. It did get a theatrical run. I can confirm that. And Inferno, I think, was the first one that went direct to video, and that was the one where they took a script and they recommissioned it for a Hellraiser movie, from my understanding, and that became kind of the norm as it went further. But again, nothing against it. I remember liking Inferno 2 as well, and avoiding it kind of the same way that you were avoiding this one, based on what I had heard. But I actually I remember liking it, so I'm looking forward to revisiting that, because I haven't seen it. I remember Craig Baxley, or the guy from Nightbreed's, in it. I believe that's the only thing I remember. Interesting enough, I used to watch this one a lot, and the one cool thing when you don't watch a movie for a long time and then come back to it, because I hadn't watched it for a long time, is seeing people. I'm like, wait a second, is that what's his name? No, it can't be. This was 96. There's no way it's him. It's him. It's got to be him. And I look up IMDb, and it's Adam fucking Scott.
Adam Scott, huh?
From Krampus and everything else. He's the Julius, or he's the guy that is the the guy that wants the toy box made, or the puzzle box made. He's his protege, or his kid, that ends up sleeping with the girl, that ends up getting killed when it's in modern time and whatever. Adam Scott from like, you look at his filmography, it's been a long time. He was 22 in this, 23, I think, when he made this movie.
His face is chubby, and now it's thin. It's weird.
No, I thought he looked. His face looks, well, I don't know. I thought he looked kind of young in this.
Yeah, young. He had like baby fat or something. Like, his face was fuller. Now he has like a thin face. It's so weird that it's him.
Yeah, why am I forgetting his name? It wasn't Julius. It was Jacques. But yeah. Yeah, it was
What the
Adam
hell?
Scott, man. It was funny because I'm like, it
Crazy.
can't be just based on the year the movie came out. And I was like, no, it's eating at me. It's if they got to be related at least.
Wow.
And then it was him. And then you just realized because he was born 73.
Unreal. Wow. Okay, so what okay. So it did come out to theaters. You saw it at theaters. As far as the rest of the movies in this franchise that we're going to get to, have you seen any of them?
I have, and I admittedly remember dismissing them, but it was in a time frame
But you've
where
seen them all.
not
You've
all,
watched them all?
not I don't think I saw Revelations, and I think I started that Juggernaut one that, and I stopped it, and I wasn't fond of the opening, but I did give it its due fair shake. Like so,
Okay.
I admittedly I think I saw Hell World, Deader, so I'm really
Okay,
looking
so you
forward to
did see
revisiting
these.
these because
Okay.
I admittedly dismissed them kind of like I did with the Amityville ones of all being like below average and not worth
Which I
my
liked more
my
than
time.
you when we
Yeah,
get to it. I know
but
I did last
but
year or
let's
2 years ago.
I was like, I know that Brandon and I were jokingly saying that we didn't want to kind of revisit, but I am interested because I always did have a soft spot for Bloodlines. I do remember liking Inferno, and this gave me a reason to rewatch them all.
There you
So
go.
why not?
That's what I'm saying. Well, we'll see. I've only seen them once, so maybe my second time around, second view, Dave, maybe I won't like it. What was I thinking? But I don't
I
know.
love when
It
you
just
think
seemed to me
like
that they
this.
were all passable. None of them were good, but none of them were bad. They were just like, you know what? They're passable movies, and there's enough meat on the bone to talk about things in
Meat
these
on
movies.
the
So
bone.
yes, we'll see how this goes, folks. But that's what it. So that I just wanted to get that out of the gate about you and your Hellraiser experiences with these movies. But this movie here,
I can see
okay,
people hating this movie, Dave, and
yeah,
but
really.
I'm not
See,
one
I
of
don't.
them. I'm not
Let
one
me
of
tell
them.
you why. Here's the thing:
Yeah,
when people like to dismiss it and call it Hellraiser in space, when really there are three different time periods. There's future, okay, let's call it space. So there's the space time, there's the past, which is the toy maker, and then there's the present, which being 1996 or whatever when the movie was made. So
yeah.
there's three different eras. However, space is basically sandwiching the middle. It opens up in space and it ends in
For
space.
the
And it's
setups.
even
Yeah.
possible to say, that less takes place in space than the other two eras. So it's not really, people like to use that as a critique. Oh, Hellraiser in space, it's shit. Well, if you go in with that attitude, yeah, it is going to sound pretty bad. But then you go to the past, to the history, and then you go to modern times, then you go back. But I'm going to make a comparison, which you may or may not get. But to me, this movie is like combining uh
Oh, I thought that was the name of the
Phantasm.
movie.
No, this movie is like combining Phantasm 3 and Phantasm 4 along with a little dose of Halloween 6. That's what this is to me. And I'll tell you exactly why I mean that. It has the zaniness of part 3 of Phantasm, which people seem to be along for the ride, even though it doesn't make a lot of sense. And this is going,
Yep.
that's kind of like this is. This is like you have all this stuff going on in 3, and then you had the flashback stuff in part 4 with Jedediah Morningside and everything else, and what goes on there, and the history of that. And also, Phantasm 4 is a little bit all over the place as well. So it's like it has that feel like a Phantasm 3 and a 4, which a lot of people like. They don't diss it immediately like they
Mhm.
do this. And the Halloween 6 comparison is for the confusion of some of the stuff that's going on there, where we've talked about it before with Halloween 6, especially the theatrical version, where when they talk about the mythology, we're not 100% sure of who's supposed to be sacrificed. The new kid, is he supposed to was Michael supposed to make a baby with what's her name and sacrifice that one for
I might
Thor?
be able to
There's
blow
a
your mind a little bit more so based on your comparison here too.
drop it then. Let's hear.
Uh, I was going to say Chris Chappelle or Dave Chappelle, Joe Chappelle or Chappelle or I think it was Chappelle
Okay.
because he was the director of Halloween 6, correct? Curse of Michael Myers.
Can't remember.
Or he did at least. So when Kevin Yeager, why Kevin Yeager, I think, wanted to drop his name from this is they were doing reshoots as they usually do, and he thought his vision was being skewed, and maybe he realized that he didn't have the money to create the ultimate version of the movie he wanted to. I'm taking some liberties there, of course, based on just what I've read in here. I believe Joe Chappelle was brought in to film the reshoots, and you'll know the reshoots right away because the movie fucking opens almost identically to Curse of Michael Myers with a flash strobe effect of Pinhead, just like fucking Halloween 6 opens up with a flash of Michael Myers strobe effect. He came in, and I think everything flash strobe effect Joe Chappelle added, and they were trying to wedge in more Pinhead at the beginning because it takes a while for Pinhead to come. Yet Pinhead is probably in this the most out of all 4 movies.
This is his movie. That's something else about this movie. This is Pinhead's movie. He gets a hell of a lot of dialogue, and I will say this. Maybe it doesn't always make sense why he is where he is, which is something we'll get into. But
yeah.
He does still have some classic lines in this movie, and this still does have that feel with the music and with the presentation and the way the skin looks and some of the effects and the Cenobite. It's still, to me, Hellraiser 1 through 4 are one thing. Like, even though a lot of people dismiss this movie, and then everything that came after.
I brought this up when we did the trilogy. Sorry, I'm excited, so I'm cutting you off. I apologize.
No, but I'm just getting at that it has atmospheric similarities. It's not going to be like 1 or 2. Neither was 3, but it tried, and this one still tries that. I don't think we get that anymore. I mean, when the remake comes, that's different. But I'm saying for these sequels in the 90s, and for the foreseeable future, this is where it ends. And this belongs along with those 4. The other,
some of the things, like if people go, "Oh my god," because at some point you could argue that the effects are not the greatest. The effects, the optical effects work in part 1 and 2 are not great. They never have been great. It's part of the charm of them, as well as a critique I have for part 1. These optical effects are on par, if not even a bit better than some of those ones, funny enough. But they're still not great because you're working within a limited budget. I'm talking about the laser lights, which they use quite a bit in this, and whatever, but they're passable enough. You get you get cool Pinhead that does say a lot of dialogue. You get that whole Toy Story opening or beginning story, which I really dig. As I mentioned earlier, there's some great lighting, some great atmosphere there, great relationship. The fact that we know he's having a son, but he gets killed as the toy maker, and what he's created, they kind of at least give that origin story-esque element to it, but it doesn't take away from the gore. Even like when he goes to talk, gets the input from that doctor, and he opens up the chest with that old school tool and whatever. There's gore and blood and whatever in that whole sequence of when that guy is dead, and you know he's going to grab his arm, like, or whatever, he grabs him and he's covered in blood, and there's a lot of like stuff that you would expect from a Hellraiser film here. In fact, it feels like it was gorier than the third movie. The third movie seemed more toned down, and this one seemed to be able to expand upon it, maybe because it was a little bit more outlandish. I don't know, but they seem to have gotten away with a bit more than the third one did.
Yeah, I think so. There was a few scenes in 3 that were good when in the beginning, but I think there was also more. They had computer enhanced things too. That's they did here too, but not so much for the gore parts. But I think there was a gore part in part 3 that was kind of computer, where all the skin came off at once, which I remember being cool, but it had a computer feel to it. But the Cenobites looked cool, even though it got goofy in the third act. I'm so glad they went back to serious tone in this movie. It doesn't happen much. Doesn't happen a lot of times. Movies, franchises get into like ridiculousness, and then they carry it on the rest of the franchise.
You're right. No, this one brought it back. You're right. You're right.
I'm glad.
There are some, like a lot of films, there's definitely some forced dialogue. Like one of them is like from the girl. She's great. We'll know her from Nightmare on Elm Street 2. And she plays like the love
Yeah.
interest in that. She's back as the wife in the modern day one. She's good in this, but they let her like that one point when she's getting chased by that dog, like the Hellraiser dog, which is
The
actually kind of
Chatterer
cool.
dog.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they actually do a scene where I always say, why does a movie do that? And I'm not saying that this movie doesn't fall victim to exactly where I'm going to go, where they almost show too much and it goes into like, oh, I wish they just trimmed it back. There's a scene where she's being chased down by that dog, and it's really well done. And they just edit it so you get the glimpses of it without it looking fake or it's just
Yeah.
too much. And then it comes at her, and I thought that was really well done. The only thing is that she plays with that puzzle box really quickly. So says, let's go both ways or whatever. And I'm like, again, I know that script convenience and whatever. I don't know why she would know that or what else, but so be it. They needed to get the movie going, and they needed her to face off with Pinhead because she's got her child. I guess that was where they wanted to go with it. However, yeah, it's still in the movie, and this is probably there. Like I said, there's some messy bits to it, but there's nothing to be ashamed about here. I
No.
I've read critiques that people just say, "Oh yeah, no wonder the director took this name off this and that, and this movie doesn't make any sense." And it's strung together well enough that it works, and I'm happy with my time with it. I
Right.
actually, like I said, I owned it, and I think it's good. I actually will say I think it's good. It's by no means great. It's not on par with 1, 2, or now my newfound love of the remake again. Like not an early adopter. I had to watch that again to appreciate it. Like I said to you earlier this year, but this one has just been always good to me and very,
Yeah.
very watchable.
Well, something else about it, this takes it back to the first two movies where the first, I mean, yes, Pinhead is the main villain, of course, and he completely takes the movie over in the second half. But in the beginning, we're getting the Angelique story and everything that happens.
Yes,
It kind of takes you back to Julia having the female antagonist of the first two movies. And it's cool because at first you
and
don't
she's
know
great in
where
this.
it's
Yeah,
going. She is. And then when she becomes, and later on we see Pinhead's power when he just
yeah.
freaking gives her the thing and the thing he does with the twins and everything else is like, okay, boom, boom. I still have
And
all
the
this power,
and the
you know?
Cenobite she turns into is possibly, arguably, one of the coolest in the franchise. Like it's on par with the
Yeah,
original ones with the head peeled back. Like it's a really good, like no one gives credit where credit's due because Pinhead's just Pinhead. They just redid the makeup there. But
right.
you judge it on the Cenobites too, and everybody's raving about the new ones in the new movie. She's underrated.
I agree.
And
She
even
doesn't get enough credit. And she doesn't, here's the reason why though. She doesn't get enough screen time or dialogue
as
after she goes Cenobite.
yeah,
And it's unfortunate.
after she goes full Cenobite.
Yeah, she needs it. She needed to push the character. I think that
Yeah.
they needed more dialogue from her because we get
Almost
so much
to
prior
clean
to
up her
that.
arc, to give her a story arc. It's almost like they
Right.
abandoned her character, and then she's a Cenobite, but with no other. You needed something more like that. I mean, we found out what happened to her because we've got the Cenobite. But you're right, there needed to be something there, and that's where I think the movie kind of falls apart because it becomes this chase through the space station to kind of add to the running time and whatnot, and it falls victim and turns into every movie that ever came before. If there's a something in space movie where the critique comes into place, it's because there's a bunch of renegade soldiers that are going around with flashlights or on the guns or whatever, going
Yeah.
through corridors,
Space.
and this
Yep.
falls victim to that, just like Leprechaun, Jason, everything else that followed after Aliens, and like that, it just became the cliche, and that's unfortunate because you're, as you said earlier, there's not that much. And even the one with the twins where they walk that fine line with the goofy where you
Agreed.
could buy it because it doesn't go to, you actually care about these guys because they're brothers, they're twins. Some of their dialogue I like this type of dialogue, but it can be definitely viewed as forced, where they're like,
It's
about
borderline.
wanting for now again, we stick together, and like some other things they talk about, and
Right.
literally, of course, they become stuck together. The editing there is okay. The effects work. I mean, they're trying to work around and try to work around the sensors and whatever. But once they get turned into that Cenobite, it's another cool looking Cenobite.
Definitely.
And of
Definitely.
course,
And
there is some computer generation when they have to
yeah,
they pull apart to then absorb that other guy, but cool.
it's a little wonky, but
Yeah,
they don't do a whole lot of the CGI. When they do show it,
yeah.
they also kind of like what they did with the dog running. They know it's a little bit of a weakness. They don't overdo it. Of course, in that scene, they have no choice. I mean, there's a choice, but it's just quicker to do it the CGI style. But I complain about, Angelique not having dialogue and everything. It just seems like they realize that the strength of the movie was the script writing for Doug Bradley and Doug Bradley's delivery. That's
Yeah.
what it was, and that's what happens in the second half of the movie. They go full Pinhead, and it's great. Now, he isn't giving amazing line after amazing line like he does
Yeah.
in the first two, but there's like 3 or 4 really good lines that he does give.
And then
He's
he calls him toy maker, which I love. I love how
Yes,
they kept
and
that going.
princess.
Yeah, yeah.
He keeps
And
calling her princess before she turns, you
you
know?
want to hear another thing that's kind of cool because you mentioned the comparison to the Phantasm 4. If I'm not mistaken, now don't quote me on this. I know he says "Welcome to Oblivion" or something, or at the end or whatever. Now I know Phantasm 4 was called Oblivion, so I could be wrong. I maybe I am wrong. Maybe I'm blending it, and I'm thinking because it was Phantasm 4 Oblivion that this was Hellraiser Oblivion originally. But I could be right. I could be wrong on that. I think now I am just confusing it. But the funny thing is, he does use the line at the end, "Welcome to Oblivion," and then that's when Hellraiser
Oh,
or Pinhead dies, and Hellraiser or Phantasm 4 is called Oblivion.
there you have it, another connection. But he is and this is the only movie, it's called Bloodline, and it's the only movie where the bloodline actually makes sense. There's like 3 or 4 movies called Bloodlines that we've seen, and this is where it completely makes sense. It's the bloodline of the toy maker
Yeah.
in 3 generations. Exactly what's going on here. And like I said, there's a little bit of stuff that it goes over our heads, just like Phantasm 3 and 4 do. You can't sit here and tell me you understand everything. You just kind of go with the zaniness of it. That is what's going on in this movie, and you're either going to accept it or not. Like the chief complaint is when the box gets opened up the first time in whatever year it is, or maybe it's in space. I forgot what it was, but the box gets open and Pinhead shows up, and then he just stays there. There's no more him going back or them having to open the box to bring him back. He's just there from place to place, and it's not explained why. That's the only detriment. That's my only negative. Where in the other movies, he comes, then he goes back, and then he has to be summoned again by opening the box again. You get what I'm saying? Where in
Yep.
this movie, he is there and he's just there. Now, in space is different, but I'm talking about the 90s. I can't remember exactly what it is, but I remember him still being there and going to this place and that place. And I'm like, why is he still just hanging out? And I'm not knocking it, but like I'm saying, I've accepted it the way I accept Phantasm 3 and 4. That's all I'm getting at.
Well,
It's not so outlandish, you know?
check this out. Just some facts that are on the B, so anybody can read them. So I'm sorry for regurgitating here, but it's just interesting because the movie I think is um like 85 minutes. The
Hmm.
but so other alternate versions of the film that went before the studio went for 82 minutes, 102 minutes, 112 minutes. The final
Well,
version, after extensive reshoots and rewrites, came in at 85 minutes. So
short.
they weren't happy, and there seemed to be a little bit more beefiness. And did Pinhead, of course, wasn't shown until later. So I don't think they had the space opener. I think again, if you read all the sort of alternate versions or whatever notes on IMDb, it doesn't open in space. So they use that kind of as bookends for the movie. It opened in 1784, and Pinhead did not show up until much later in the film, which became the critique, because at the part 4 mark, everybody wanted fucking Pinhead. So then they shot, and then that's when they cut it down, lost some of that middle portion, I think, as much as possible, inserted the space opener to kind of give it a well, what they thought was a beefier opening, and then those flash shots of Pinhead for no reason, just so that you saw Pinhead right out of the fucking gate. And again, I will chalk that up, just knowing what I know, that that was a Joe Chappelle edition. But supposedly there was a lot more that took place, I think, in 1984 or 1784, excuse me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I almost wish I could see something like that, you know? But
yeah, there's a work print of Hellraiser Bloodline that reflects what appears to be an early attempt to rectify the studio's complaint that Pinhead enters the film too late. Well, I don't want that. I want the one that Pinhead enters the film too late.
that's what we
I want
have.
that one. Well, I don't no. The one that we have is him entering the film right at the beginning. Like you see the flashes of him, whatever. I'm talking about, like, yeah, I want to see that one that's because I think they're like you said, Bloodlines. This is it. You've got him from the early attempt, and then obviously some modern day version in '96, to then someone that is trying to fix this once and for all in the future, and it happens to take place on a space station that ends up becoming, that was created to become the Lamont configuration. I'm just kidding.
Lamont, you big dummy. Yeah. But what about Hellraiser, the original? You see a flash of Pinhead in the beginning when Frank's playing with the thing, with the configuration, and he comes up, and that's it. He's holding the box, and then you don't see him again until the climax of the movie.
Yeah, like a teaser. I get it. I get it. It was almost like they lost faith that people wouldn't be interested in that. But to be honest, at the end of the day, then they get a movie that some people are interested in. For most of the people that are into this are into it for that backstory element and whatnot. Yeah. I'm not saying that the rest of it's not great. I'm just saying that that backstory element is probably the strongest portion of the film. Imagine that expanded upon a bit more. Like that would be great. I would love to see that footage. Excuse me. And the laser just did not have deleted scenes from my recollection of it at all. So it'd be interesting to see if they ever come up with a Scream Factory Blu-ray of this, if they're ever to get an alternative cut or any of this extra footage. That would be fucking interesting. But yeah, by no means a disappointment. I don't know if, do you have other questions for me or notes or things that you thought didn't make sense? I don't know if I can answer them per se, because I agree there's some messy bits here, but there's enough to piece together that I've always been fond of this one.
Oh, look at this. Hellraiser 4 Bloodline Reconstruction Workprint Part 1. I wanted to see if there was anything we can find on YouTube, and there is. There's a reconstruction workprint, which I don't know what that necessarily means, but they come in small parts for whatever reason.
Well, that because maybe it was when YouTube,
because
YouTube used to be that you can only put 10-minute segments when it first started, and you'd have to have a special account to get longer, and then the longer one was still a limited amount, and then eventually became what YouTube is now. But at the beginning, depending when those were uploaded, that might be the reason why. That's why you get things in like 10-minute chunks.
Well, I'll tell you what. When that guy got killed, it was great. That shocker when he comes out and he says, first he says something about, do I look like someone who cares what God thinks, which is great.
Yeah.
And then he gets pissed off finally and he goes, no more games. And boom, the fucking guy gets killed. The freaking toy maker gets his head severed.
Yeah.
Just like that. And all hell breaks loose. Dude, that shit's great. And then Pinhead takes fucking over. I think that's great, man. It was a good kill. A lot of freaking good kills. And then what happens with Princess, how things happen there. And then when she comes back, dude, the stuff that I like about this movie, I really like. I just can't
I'm glad. I'm so happy because every time we talk about it, everybody's like, oh yeah, Bloodline. Oh, there we go. Like it's off the rails. I don't know what it is. I actually, like I said, I like this better than 3.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll
I do
just
too.
split it where 3's like a 6.5. This is a 7 for me.
Well, this
I
is what
don't
I
mean to.
can say.
Yeah, I'm
No,
just
I'll even
throwing it out
say
there. I'm
it.
not trying to end it. I'm just throwing it out there.
Right.
Why? It's a good movie.
I agree. I don't care. I'll say it. You said I can't go higher than a 7. So a 7 it is. Because I want to give it the highest I can give it. That's how I
Yeah,
feel about I want to go higher. I cannot. There's some issues with it still, but the stuff that's good really works. I just it's a weird I think
yeah.
maybe people watch this movie again and forget about the stigma of space and just watch it and then take a look at the other stuff. Look at 5. If you've watched the other ones and if you're critical of them, take a look at this one and lump it in with the first 4 and say, "Hey, at least it still has this and this going." And you get Pinhead coming saying, "I am so exquisitely empty," and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And it's cool. He has some good lines. It's a good story. I'm in it. And did you you probably don't know, but the little boy, it was driving me nuts. I'm like, where do I know this kid from? Where do I know this kid from? It's something he plays Danny Lloyd in the freaking TV version of The Shining.
I didn't know that, but I was wondering
Yeah,
where I knew that kid from. Although like he was a little annoying.
I suppose so. Yeah, I suppose so.
He was not in the movie enough to. I'm just. It was like I'm actually half joking, but it was just. I just remember going, "Oh, this kid's pissing me off. Kill him."
Dude, right. But there's some good kills. We get good
Yeah,
kills when they come back to space in the end. The first kill is great with the freaking one guy and it rips his head off from the top. Then the
yep,
other guy gets cut by the mirror, the
yeah.
freaking the
Half
glass
and
door. Yeah.
yeah, it's great and just the decapitation as you mentioned goes through. It comes out with a blade and it zips back. Yeah, there's some good stuff. When that guy that Angelique brings down to seduce, I always found that looks a little weird, but I mean, still, the hooks in him, like they got the
Yeah.
hooks in you back. Like, I mean, there's
Yes. The hooks are here. Yeah.
the stuff that you just remember from 1 and 2, and of course 3 is there.
Hmm.
But yeah, 3 gets a little goofy and off the rails and whatever. And
Yeah.
this one seems to feel more in tone with the first 2.
Yeah. You know what would have made it better? If they would have shown more of the Elliot Spencer story in 3 when they were flashing back. Because they're time jumping. Why not show more of that, how he actually became it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know, just a little more backstory, what I think would have been cool. But they had enough going on with the guy and how the toy maker gets involved and the assistant that's what's his name?
Oh
Alan
yeah, yeah,
Scott or whatever his
yeah.
name is, and
Adam
how they
Scott. Yeah.
bring Angelique in because she's not baptized and everything else, and which makes sense.
And then,
She's on yeah.
yeah, well, that may have been what was cut down when they like more of even a transition from 1784 to that present day when they're still together and like all of a sudden he forgets the golden rule like after all that time and whatever. But
Hmm.
so be
Yeah.
it.
It still has that 90s look that I don't like. And I know I bring this up a lot when I talk about, but I could walk into a room. You could show me freaking 10 seconds from a movie from the early 90s to mid 90s, a horror movie, and say, when was this made? And I'll say, this is the 90s movie for sure. And I
Yeah.
hope people know what I'm talking about. It just has this, just like nowadays, film looks a certain way that I'm not always crazy about. No, I'll say that.
Well, I
But
wonder if some of that's because everything's digital now. Most of what we're seeing, not everything, but most of what we're seeing is digital.
and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But they just have I don't know. I've talked about it for certain movies. Like there's an absence of color in certain, I don't know, scenes and
Yeah.
movies now. I can't get into it, but I mean, I don't know. But yeah, so that's cool. So Bloodline passes. We're doing okay.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I hope
I
people watch it.
Yeah, I do. I give it another try, everybody. Like, I mean, again, if you're not a Hellraiser fan, I don't think this is going to then change your mind because again, it's based on the fundamentals there, but it's definitely worth a try if you've been on the fence to check it out or heard, that it's rubbish. Where the fuck did rubbish come from? If you heard it was that and you wanted to just check it out, it's got our seal of
Yeah.
approval.
That it does. Absolutely. So yeah, check it out again. And
Well,
we'll see what happens.
we're off to
So
a
there
good
you
start,
go.
man. Looking
Yeah,
forward
yeah.
to the rest of the sausage.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Hopefully the Hellraiser movies are good. I have a good feeling about it's gonna be first time watches for some of the Frankensteins for me, so that's kind of cool. And
I've seen all of them with the exception of those ones that you mentioned, The House of Frankenstein and The House of Dracula, but everyone else I've seen, um, Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein and Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. Oh, and Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman multiple times. Son of Frankenstein and Ghost of Frankenstein one time each when I was a kid.
yeah, I haven't seen them. I saw the first two, and then I know for a fact I've seen obviously Bride, and then Abbott
Yeah.
and Costello I've seen, and I don't know. I must have saw it with the Wolfman, but 100% I can't say about any other ones. I definitely didn't see Ghost or House or Son. There's no way I've seen these movies, so I'm
Yeah.
looking
Good.
forward to it.
All right.
Yeah. So
Well, on that note,
yeah, let's get the hell out of here, shall we?
get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah. All right. Much love. We'll see you again. Manchichi. You got anything else?
Take care, everybody.